Before you close your eyes tonight, I want to ask you something very simple, yet deeply personal. When was the last time you looked at yourself with kindness? Not to check your flaws, not to compare yourself with anyone else, but to truly meet yourself with gentle eyes. Most of us walk past mirrors every day, glancing quickly, noticing what we dislike, and moving on. We see the lines on our faces, the tiredness in our eyes, the small imperfections, and we rarely stay long enough to see the person behind those details. But tonight, I invite you to pause. Tonight, I want you to linger, because hidden in that reflection is someone who has carried you through every storm, every sleepless night, every heartbreak. That person you has been waiting to be seen with compassion. There is a moment, often at night when the world is finally quiet, when you are left with only yourself. The lights are low, the noise has faded, and you move through the familiar rituals of preparing for sleep. Maybe you brush your teeth, maybe you wash your face, maybe you turn off the phone. And in that simple, ordinary moment, your eyes meet your own reflection. How do you look at yourself in that instant? For many of us, the answer is painful. We glance quickly, as if afraid of what we might see. We notice the flaws, the tired eyes, the wrinkles forming at the corners, the skin that doesn't look like it did 10 years ago. Some people sigh. Others frown. Most of us look away almost immediately, choosing not to stay too long with our own reflection. But what if, instead of rushing, you stayed? What if you looked not with judgment, but with gentleness? Because that reflection staring back at you is not a stranger. It is not an enemy. It is your oldest companion, the one who has carried you through every day of your life. That reflection is a survivor of heartbreaks you thought would destroy you. It is the keeper of laughter that once shook your chest until your ribs ached. It is the vessel that held you through sickness and through health. And yet, too often, we treat this companion with indifference, or worse, with cruelty. Think about how you treat a dear friend. If a friend came to you exhausted, would you tell them they were weak? If a friend made a mistake, would you replay it in their ears over and over again? If a friend looked at you with tearful eyes, would you criticize their face? Of course not. You would soften, you would comfort, you would remind them of their worth. And yet, when it comes to ourselves, we rarely extend the same tenderness. This is why the mirror matters. The Buddha once said that of all relationships we cultivate, the most important is the relationship with our own mind. If the mind is not cared for, if the heart is not tended, then every other connection trembles like a fragile branch in a storm. But when we learn to turn compassion inward, to treat ourselves with the gentleness we long for from others, then even in solitude we are never truly alone. Take a slow breath now. Inhale deeply and release it gently. Let your shoulders soften. Let your body remember what it means to rest. Imagine yourself standing before a mirror, not the one hanging on your wall, but a mirror of the soul. This mirror does not just reflect your surface, it reflects the truth of your journey. What do you see there? Perhaps you see scars, visible reminders of wounds you once carried. But scars are not signs of weakness, they are proof of healing. Perhaps you see wrinkles, lines etched into your skin from years of frowning, worrying, laughing, and living. Those lines are the calligraphy of experience, the poetry of survival written across your face. Perhaps you see shadows of mistakes, regrets that still linger. But beneath those shadows is a light that has never gone out, the light of awareness, the light of being, the light that is your birthright. The mirror of compassion does not ask you to be flawless. It asks you to be honest. It invites you to look at yourself not with judgment, but with understanding. There is an old Zen story about a monk who once carried a heavy sack across mountains. When asked why he did not set it down to rest, he replied, "I have carried this burden for so long, I forgot it was not part of me." We are the same. We carry burdens of shame, guilt, regret sometimes for decades until we mistake them for our essence. But they are not who we are. They are clouds drifting across the sky of our being, and the sky itself, the essence of who you are, remains untouched. So often we hope that love from others will soothe the ache we carry inside. We imagine that applause will silence the critic in our minds, that success will finally make us feel worthy. But it never lasts. It is like pouring water into a cracked pot. The more we receive without tending the fracture within, the faster it drains away. Self-love is not a luxury. It is not selfishness. It is survival. It is the root from which everything else grows. Think about the last time someone complimented you or told you they cared about you. Did the feeling stay with you long, or did it vanish quickly, replaced by doubt? This happens because when the soil of self-compassion is dry, even the sweetest words cannot take root. They fall onto barren ground. But when the soil is nurtured with kindness toward yourself, those words blossom into nourishment that lasts. The Buddha urged us to practice right speech, not only outwardly but inwardly. The voice you hear most often is your own, and the words you whisper in your mind build the house you live in. If those words are cruel, you dwell in a prison of thorns. If those words are kind, you live in a garden of peace. Place your hand gently over your heart. Feel the steady rhythm there, the quiet drumbeat of your life. Whisper softly to yourself, even if only in your thoughts. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be at ease. May I be loved. These are not empty words. They are seeds. And every time you repeat them, you water the soil of compassion within you. Picture yourself as a child, small, tender, still learning. That child still lives within you, still waits for your kindness. Would you scold that child for stumbling? Would you call them unworthy for crying? Or would you lift them, comfort them, remind them that falling is part of growing? That child deserves your tenderness, and so do you. The mirror shows you this truth. You are not your mistakes. You are not your regrets. You are not the harsh critic inside your head. You are the awareness that sees all of it. You are the sky, vast and open, holding every storm, every cloud, every ray of sun. So as you prepare for sleep, let the mirror remind you, you are enough. You have always been enough. Your worth does not depend on accomplishments or approval. It does not depend on youth or perfection. It rests only on the simple miracle that you are alive, breathing, here in this very moment. Take one last deep breath with me. Inhale forgiveness, exhale regret. Inhale gentleness, exhale judgment. Inhale love, exhale fear. And as you drift into rest, let these words echo softly in your heart. You are not broken, you are becoming. You are not failing, you are learning. You are not unworthy. You are love itself, waiting to be remembered. This is the gift of compassion. the ability to look into the mirror and finally see yourself not as a stranger, not as an enemy, but as a beloved friend who has been walking beside you all along. So often in life, we search for love in the eyes of others. We wait for someone to notice us, to value us, to tell us that we matter. And while connection with others is beautiful and necessary, there is one relationship that is often forgotten, neglected, and left to wither in the background: the relationship you hold with yourself. Think about how many times you have abandoned yourself. You stayed in places where your heart was not at peace. You silenced your voice so others would feel comfortable. You gave away your energy, your care, your time, hoping that one day the love you longed for would finally be returned to you. And yet, the more you gave without tending to your own heart, the more you felt unseen. Inside each of us lives a friend who has been waiting for years to be remembered. This friend has been with you from the very beginning, since your first breath. This friend carried you when no one else could, stayed with you when the room was empty, held your secrets when there was no one to trust. That forgotten friend is you. Imagine, for a moment, what it would feel like to meet yourself again, not the outer image, not the performance, not the version you show the world, but the real, living presence of your inner self. Can you picture it? Can you imagine sitting across from yourself as you would with someone you love? What would you say? How would you listen? Would you apologize for the ways you have ignored your own needs? Would you promise never to leave again? The Buddha once said that the self is the master of the self. And yet, how many of us have turned away from that master, chasing approval from strangers, chasing comfort in achievements, chasing validation in fleeting moments? We run from ourselves, as if who we are is not enough, as if the treasure we seek must be hidden somewhere else. But the truth is, the sun you chase has always been shining quietly in your own chest. We live in a world that teaches us to forget ourselves. From childhood, many of us learn that love must be earned, that worth depends on performance, that only by pleasing others can we deserve care. So we abandon our true selves in favor of masks. We push aside our own needs, dismiss our own feelings, ignore the whispers of our own heart, and over time, we lose touch with the most loyal companion we will ever know. But even when forgotten, this inner friend does not disappear. They wait, patiently, quietly. They wait for you to remember. They send you signals: fatigue that asks you to rest, anxiety that begs you to slow down, loneliness that invites you to return to your own presence. The body aches, the mind spins, the heart feels empty, not because you are broken, but because a friend within is knocking on the door, asking to be let back in. Pause now. Take a gentle breath in and let it out slowly. Picture yourself walking along a path, deep in a quiet forest. The air is still, the leaves rustle softly, the earth is firm beneath your feet. Ahead, you see a figure waiting. As you come closer, you realize this figure is you. Not the tired, stressed version of you, but the one who has always existed beneath the noise, the childlike, innocent, open-hearted presence that has never stopped waiting. When you meet this forgotten friend, notice their eyes. Notice the way they look at you with recognition, with longing, with forgiveness. They are not angry at you for leaving. They are simply glad you have returned. Sit with them in your imagination. Hold their hands. Tell them, "I remember you now. I will not abandon you again." This practice may feel strange at first. Many of us are so used to speaking harshly to ourselves or ignoring ourselves completely that to imagine being gentle can feel uncomfortable. But this is the beginning of healing. Just as a long-lost friend cannot be won back in a single day, your inner self may need time to trust you again. So show up consistently, speak kindly, keep promises to yourself, even the small ones. Each act of presence rebuilds the bridge between you and the forgotten friend within. Think about the last time you felt truly lonely. Maybe you were surrounded by people, yet still felt unseen. Maybe you were scrolling endlessly through messages or images, searching for connection but finding only emptiness. Loneliness is not always the absence of others, it is often the absence of our own presence. When we abandon ourselves, no amount of company can fill the void. But when we remember our inner friend, even solitude becomes luminous. There is a Zen saying, "The traveler cannot run away from his own shadow." No matter where you go, you carry yourself with you. Your thoughts, your habits, your unspoken wounds, all of it travels alongside you. If that inner relationship is wounded, the wound will seep into every encounter, every connection, every dream. But when that relationship is healed with patience and kindness, even silence feels full. Even solitude feels like home. The words you speak to yourself matter more than you may realize. If you constantly repeat stories of failure, you will live as if failure defines you. If you whisper that you are not enough, your heart will shrink in response. But if you begin to speak with tenderness, saying, "I am learning, I am growing, I am worthy of my own love," something shifts. Slowly, the inner friend begins to trust you again. Slowly, the bond begins to heal. As you prepare for rest tonight, think of yourself not as an enemy to be fixed, but as a beloved friend to be cared for. The forgotten friend within has always been here, waiting for your return. And when you finally sit with them, when you finally listen, when you finally say, "I see you, I hear you, I will not leave you again," something inside softens, the loneliness eases, the noise quiets, and you remember what you had lost, the steady, unshakable companionship of your own heart. Take one last breath now, deep and slow. Let it out gently. As you drift into sleep, imagine holding hands with that forgotten friend within. Feel their warmth, their presence, their forgiveness, and know that you are not alone. You have never been alone. You have always had yourself. When we look closely at our own lives, it becomes clear how often we run from ourselves. We run into busyness, into constant distraction, into endless noise, because silence feels unbearable. We believe if we stay still long enough, we might come face to face with the emptiness we carry inside. But here is the truth. That emptiness is not something to fear. Beneath it lies the deepest refuge you will ever know. The Buddha taught that among all the temples and sacred places, none is more important than the sanctuary within. He reminded us that unless we learn to take refuge in ourselves, no outer shelter can ever truly give us peace. You may step into the most beautiful hall, light candles, chant prayers, and for a moment feel comfort. But when you walk away, the storms of the mind return, because the one place you have not yet learned to rest is within your own heart. Think about the times you have placed your peace entirely in the hands of others. Maybe you believed that a partner's love would complete you. Maybe you imagined that success would erase your doubts. Maybe you told yourself that if only you were approved of, respected, admired, then the ache would finally disappear. And perhaps you reached those milestones only to find that the relief was brief. Like water poured into a cracked bowl, it slipped away faster than you could hold it. The Buddha saw this clearly. He said that no one else can walk the path for us. Teachers may guide us, companions may support us, but the journey inward must be ours. And it begins with a simple act, learning to stay with ourselves when discomfort arises, to stay with the breath when the mind wanders, to stay with the heart when it aches. Imagine sitting beneath a tree on a quiet afternoon. The sun filters through the branches, and the wind carries the scent of earth. In that stillness, you notice how restless the mind becomes. Thoughts rush in, memories of the past, worries of the future, voices of judgment. You are tempted to run, to stand up, to busy yourself with something else. But instead, you breathe in, out, slowly, gently, and in the act of staying, a doorway opens. What you discover in that moment is that beneath all the turbulence there is a silence, a stillness that has always been here, waiting. It is not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of presence. It does not judge, it does not demand, it simply holds. And when you rest in that silence, you feel something you may have forgotten. You are safe, you are enough, you are already home. Taking refuge in yourself does not mean you never need others. We are human beings, and connection is part of our nature. But when you learn to take refuge within, your relationships transform. You no longer cling to others out of desperation. You no longer demand they fill the void you refuse to face. Instead, you meet them from fullness, from steadiness, from love that overflows rather than hunger that grasps. The Buddha compared the untrained mind to a monkey leaping from branch to branch, grasping at every fruit, never satisfied. But when the mind is steadied through kindness, through awareness, through compassion, it begins to rest. And in that rest, nourishment is found. This is the essence of refuge, discovering that everything you were seeking out there has always been waiting in here. Perhaps you doubt this. Perhaps you think, how can I take refuge in myself when I am the one who criticizes me, who doubts me, who abandons me? And the answer is simple, though not always easy. You learn to meet those parts of yourself with the same gentleness you would offer to a child. When the critic arises, you do not fight it. You see it, you breathe with it, you whisper softly, I hear you, but you are not the truth of who I am. This is the practice the Buddha himself lived. On the night of his awakening, as he sat beneath the Bodhi tree, Mara, the personification of doubt and fear, approached him with armies of temptation. Mara whispered, "Who do you think you are to seek liberation? Who are you to imagine you are worthy of peace?" And the Buddha did not argue. He did not run. He simply touched the earth and said, "I see you." In that recognition, Mara lost his power. You can do the same. Each time you sit with your own doubts, each time you acknowledge your fears without running, you reclaim a little more of your inner refuge. You begin to trust yourself, not because the storms vanish, but because you know you can weather them. So as you lie here tonight, listening, breathing, perhaps sensing the weight of your day fading, let this thought settle in your heart. You do not need to wait for someone else to give you peace. You do not need to chase approval, or cling to praise, or hide from loneliness. The refuge you have been searching for has always been inside you, steady as the earth beneath your feet, open as the sky above your head. Take a breath now. Inhale slowly. Feel the air fill your chest. Exhale gently. With each breath, imagine yourself stepping deeper into that inner sanctuary. The walls are strong, but soft. The space is vast, but welcoming. And here, in this place within, you are safe. You are whole. You are home. There is a question that quietly follows us through life. If peace can be found within, why do we so often turn away from it? Why do we keep abandoning ourselves, running into the arms of distraction, craving, or fear, instead of resting in the refuge that is always available? The truth is, most of us were never taught how to stay with ourselves. From the moment we were children, messages began to shape us. Some of us were told, directly or indirectly, that love must be earned, that we were worthy only if we behaved, only if we achieved, only if we pleased. Others learned that feelings were dangerous. Don't cry, don't be angry, don't be too loud, don't be too soft. So we tucked pieces of ourselves away, hiding them in dark corners of the heart, believing that if we showed our full selves, we might no longer be accepted. Over time, we became skilled at abandoning ourselves. We learned to silence the voice inside that whispered, "I need rest," and replaced it with, "Keep going, you can't stop now." We ignored the ache that said, "This path doesn't feel right," and forced ourselves to keep walking because it looked good from the outside. We buried the longing for kindness beneath layers of perfectionism, busyness, and approval. Seeking, we became strangers to our own hearts. Think about the last time you said yes when everything inside you wanted to say no. Think about the times you kept smiling when you were hurting, or kept working when your body begged for rest. In those moments, you may have felt like you had no choice, and maybe at that time you didn't. But every time we betray ourselves, the bond with our inner friend grows weaker. Why do we do this? Because somewhere along the way, we were convinced that our worth depends on something outside ourselves. We were taught that to be loved, we must become what others expect. And so, like actors on a stage, we put on masks. We learn to perform strength when we feel weak. We pretend to be indifferent when we are deeply longing. We show the world fragments of ourselves, but rarely the whole truth. And behind the mask, the forgotten friend waits. It is painful to realize how often we abandon ourselves. But pain can be a doorway. In Buddhism, suffering is not seen as punishment, but as a teacher. The first noble truth tells us that life contains suffering, loss, illness, change, disappointment. But the second noble truth reveals something more. Much of our suffering comes from the ways we resist reality, the ways we betray ourselves. And the third truth is a promise that by seeing clearly, by staying present, we can find freedom. So the question is not simply, why have I abandoned myself? But rather, am I willing to return? Imagine for a moment that your inner self is like a home. Over the years, you may have left that home unattended. The windows are dusty, the rooms are dark, the garden is overgrown, but the foundation is still strong. The door has never been locked. All it takes is the courage to step inside again. The first step is awareness. To notice when you are about to betray yourself again. Maybe it's the moment you're about to agree to something that drains you. Maybe it's the moment you reach for another distraction instead of sitting with your feelings. In that pause, you have a choice. You can continue the old habit of abandoning yourself, or you can try something new. You can stay. Staying with yourself may feel uncomfortable at first. It may feel lonely. It may even feel frightening, but beneath that discomfort is the beginning of healing. When you stay, you start to rebuild trust. You begin to show your forgotten friend that you will not leave them again, and slowly you remember what it feels like to be whole. You remember that your worth has never been measured by productivity, perfection, or performance. It has always been inherent, untouched, unshakable. Tonight, as you lie here, perhaps a part of you is remembering all the times you left yourself behind. Let the regret soften, let the grief rise if it needs to, but also let forgiveness in. You were doing the best you knew at the time. You abandoned yourself because you thought you had to in order to survive. Now you are learning a new way. Take a deep breath with me. Inhale slowly, and as you exhale, whisper softly in your heart, I will no longer leave myself behind. Again, inhale, exhale, I choose to stay. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes, and each time you choose presence over abandonment, compassion over judgment, you weave the bond with yourself a little stronger. One day, you will look into the mirror, not with avoidance, but with recognition. You will see not a stranger, not an enemy, but a friend you have finally remembered. And in that moment, the long journey of returning home to yourself will feel worth every step. There comes a point in every journey where we realize that what we have been searching for outside has always been waiting quietly inside. We spend so much of life reaching outward toward people, toward achievements, toward dreams of recognition. And yet, no matter how far we reach, the longing never truly ends. It is only when we pause, when we turn inward, that we begin to sense the place we were meant to return to all along, the home of our own heart. To return home is not about creating something new, it is about remembering what was never lost. Deep within you, beneath the noise of fear, beneath the layers of doubt, beneath the masks you have worn to please others, there has always been a steady flame. This flame is your true nature, your innate worthiness, your unshakable presence. It has never gone out, no matter how many times you have abandoned yourself. It has been waiting patiently, like a candle sheltered from the wind, ready to light your way back. But why do we resist returning home? Because the heart often holds not only love, but also pain. To return home means to sit with the grief we tried to outrun, the shame we tried to bury, the fears we tried to silence. And yet, only by sitting with them can we be free. The Buddha taught that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. What he meant is that while the body and mind will experience discomfort, it is our resistance, our refusal to be present, that turns pain into suffering. Imagine walking into a room you have avoided for years. The windows are covered in dust, the air is heavy, the corners are filled with shadows. At first, it feels unbearable, but slowly, you begin to open the windows. Light enters. You sweep the floor. You wipe the surfaces. You let the air move again. The room is still the same room, but it becomes livable once more. Returning to your heart is just like this. At first, the weight of old emotions may feel suffocating, but with each breath of compassion, with each moment of courage, the light begins to return. Many people fear that if they open their hearts, they will be overwhelmed. They imagine endless tears, unstoppable anger, a flood of sadness that will drown them. But emotions are like waves. They rise, they crest, and they fall. The more we resist them, the more force they gather. The more we allow them, the more naturally they pass. Returning home to your heart is not about drowning in emotions. It is about learning to sit on the shore and watch the waves, knowing that they come and go, but you remain. One simple way to begin this return is through the breath. The breath is always here, always in the present moment, always connecting body and mind. Each inhale is a gentle invitation. Come home. Each exhale is a release. Let go. When you breathe consciously, you are not only filling your lungs, you are softening the walls around your heart. Another way is through kindness. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love. Whisper words of encouragement. Offer yourself forgiveness. Place your hand over your heart and remind yourself, I am here. I am safe. I am allowed to rest. Each time you do this, you take another step toward home. It helps to remember that the heart is not only a place of wounds, but also a place of immense resilience. Think of how many times your heart has broken and yet still continued to beat. Think of how many times you felt hopeless and yet somehow found the strength to rise again. The heart is not fragile glass. It is living, breathing strength. Returning home to it is not about being crushed. It is about remembering that you have always been stronger than you believed. When you finally return, something shifts. The endless search begins to quiet. The need for external validation loosens its grip. The loneliness eases because you realize you were never truly alone. You have always had yourself, and when you come home, you discover that being with yourself is not emptiness, it is fullness, it is peace. Take a moment now. Close your eyes if they are not already closed. Breathe in gently. Place your hand over your heart. Feel its steady rhythm, that quiet drum that has never abandoned you. Whisper softly, I am here. I have returned. I am home. Let those words echo inside you. Let them weave a sense of safety through your body. Let them remind you that no matter where you go, no matter what happens, you can always return. This home cannot be destroyed. It cannot be taken. It is yours forever. And so, as you drift toward rest tonight, imagine yourself walking through the doorway of your own heart. See the light glowing inside, warm and steady. Feel the peace of being welcomed, not judged. Notice how every part of you, your joys, your sorrows, your mistakes, your dreams, has a place here. Nothing is excluded. Everything is held. This is the true meaning of coming home. So rest now, dear one. Rest in the arms of your own heart. You have traveled far, you have endured much, and now it is time to return to the place you have always belonged. Let the warmth of that home hold you through the night. Let it remind you that you are enough. You are loved, you are safe, and you are finally, beautifully, home. Every life, no matter how carefully lived, carries its share of wounds. Some are visible scars on the skin, injuries that others can see. But many are invisible, buried deep inside, carried silently for years. even decades. These are the wounds that shape the way we walk through the world, often without us realizing it. They whisper in our thoughts, they weigh on our bodies, they echo in our choices. Think for a moment about the heaviness you sometimes feel in your chest, the knot in your stomach before a difficult conversation, the tightness in your shoulders after a long day. These are not accidents. They are the body's way of speaking, reminding you that what is unresolved inside still longs to be acknowledged. The Buddha taught that the body and mind are not two separate things. They are like water and waves, different in form, but inseparable in essence. When the mind suffers, the body responds. When the body carries tension, the mind feels unrest. So often we try to silence these messages. We take a pill for the headache, a distraction for the anxiety, a smile to cover the sadness. We tell ourselves to push forward, to be strong, to keep it all together. But strength does not come from ignoring wounds. True strength comes from the courage to see them, to feel them, to understand them. There is a story of a woman who carried a weight in her chest for years. Doctors could not explain it. Tests showed nothing wrong, yet she felt it every day like a stone pressing on her heart. Only when she allowed herself to sit quietly, to breathe and listen, did the truth rise to the surface. It was grief. Grief she had buried long ago, grief she had never allowed herself to feel. When she wept, not dramatically but softly, with dignity, the heaviness began to ease. The pain had not been an enemy, it had been a messenger. How many of us carry such silent messages? The unspoken words, the unresolved goodbyes, the regrets we cannot forgive ourselves for. They live inside us, shaping our posture, tightening our muscles, clouding our minds. And yet they do not come to harm us. They come to be heard. The Buddha once said, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional." What he meant is that pain will arise, loss, illness, change, heartbreak. But suffering multiplies when we resist the pain, when we label it as failure, when we fear it, when we push it away. In truth, the moment we turn toward our wounds with compassion, suffering begins to dissolve. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents an old wound, words you swallowed, tears you never cried, anger you never allowed yourself to express. At first, you might not notice the weight. You get used to carrying it. But as the years pass, the burden grows heavier. You walk slower. You tire faster. Life feels more difficult than it should. Then one day, you realize that you have the power to open the backpack. You reach inside. You take out one stone at a time. You name it. This is grief. This is anger. This is fear. And with each stone released, you feel lighter, freer, more alive. This is what it means to tend to the wounds we carry. Not to erase them, not to pretend they never happened, but to give them the compassion they have been waiting for. Close your eyes for a moment now. Bring your attention to your body. Where do you feel heaviness? Where is there tightness, pressure, or discomfort? Instead of pushing it away, breathe into it. Whisper to that place softly, "I hear you. I am here with you. You are safe now." Notice what happens when you meet your wounds with kindness rather than resistance. Sometimes, even acknowledgement is enough to begin the healing. Of course, not all wounds heal quickly. Some are deep, carved into us by experiences we never wanted, perhaps by people we trusted. These wounds may never vanish completely, but even they can soften when touched with compassion. Even they can transform from sharp pain into quiet teachers. Your body remembers everything: the joys, the traumas, the moments of safety, the moments of danger. Sometimes when you feel uneasy around someone, it is not your mind being irrational. It is your body remembering something your mind has forgotten. Sometimes when you feel tired without reason, it is not weakness. It is your body asking you to set down the weight of old burdens. The body is a faithful witness, and when you listen, you discover that it has always been trying to guide you home. The Zen tradition teaches that nothing inside you is an enemy. Even pain, even fear, even sorrow can be teachers when you are willing to listen. Your wounds do not make you broken, they make you human. They make you real, and paradoxically, they can also make you whole, because by embracing them, you reclaim every part of yourself. Think of the lotus flower. It blooms pure and radiant, yet its roots grow in the mud. Without the mud, there would be no lotus. Without your wounds, there would be no depth, no wisdom, no compassion. The mud is not the opposite of the flower. It is the condition that makes the flower possible. So tonight, as you prepare to rest, I invite you not to run from your wounds, but to hold them gently. Place your hand over your heart and breathe. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. Whisper inwardly, I carry wounds, but I also carry healing. I carry pain, but I also carry compassion. I carry the past, but I also carry the possibility of freedom. Let those words sink in. Let them soften the hard places within you. Let them remind you that the wounds you carry do not define you. They are part of your story, but not the whole story. You are more than what has hurt you. You are the one who has survived, the one who continues to breathe, the one who has the courage to face even what is painful. As you drift into sleep, imagine laying down that heavy backpack of stones. One by one, you set them gently on the ground. You do not need to carry them tonight. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to breathe freely. You are allowed to feel light. And as you rest, may you remember this truth. Your wounds may shape you, but they do not diminish you. In their presence, you can discover compassion. In their depth, you can discover wisdom. And in embracing them, you may finally discover the wholeness you have been searching for all along. There is a voice that follows you everywhere you go. It does not live outside, though sometimes it echoes louder than the words of others. It lives inside your mind, speaking in tones you know too well. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it shouts, but its message is almost always the same. You are not enough. This inner critic is one of the deepest wounds we carry. Unlike scars on the skin, this one is invisible. But you feel it each time you hesitate to take a chance, each time you replay a mistake, each time you wake in the night wondering why you cannot simply be at peace. It is a wound that hides in plain sight, disguised as your own voice, disguised as truth. Where does this voice come from? For many, it is the echo of words heard in childhood, words of criticism, disappointment, or neglect. Maybe someone told you that you would never amount to much. Maybe you were compared to others until you believed you could never measure up. Maybe you were taught that mistakes were shameful instead of natural, that love had to be earned rather than freely given. These messages burrow deep, taking root in tender soil, and over time they grow into the critic that speaks within you now. The tragedy is that this critic believes it is protecting you. It says, "Don't try, you'll fail," as if failure would be unbearable. It says, "Don't speak, you'll embarrass yourself," as if silence could keep you safe. It says, "Don't hope too much, you'll only be disappointed," as if hope itself were dangerous. The critic thinks it is keeping you from pain, but in truth, it is keeping you from life. Consider the way this critic speaks to you. Would you ever speak that way to a child? Would you look into the eyes of a friend and say, "You are worthless, you are weak, you will never be enough"? Of course not. And yet, how many times a day do you hear some version of these words within yourself? The Buddha taught that the mind can be our greatest ally or our greatest enemy. When it is trained in compassion, it becomes a garden that nourishes every part of our life. But when it is left untended, it becomes a battlefield where the critic wages endless war. The goal is not to destroy the critic because fighting it only makes it louder, but to understand it, to meet it with awareness, and gently guide it toward transformation. Imagine for a moment that this critic is a small, frightened child. Instead of pushing them away, what if you knelt down, looked into their eyes, and said, "I hear you. I know you are afraid, but you are not the truth of me." By doing this, you take away its power. The voice may still arise, but it no longer defines you. It becomes background noise rather than the whole story. There is a practice in Buddhism called noting. When a thought arises, you simply notice it without judgment. If the critic whispers, "You're not good enough," you say inwardly, "Ah, judgment is here." If it says, "You always fail," you note, "Criticism is here." In that simple act of naming, you create space between yourself and the thought. You remember that you are the awareness observing the thought, not the thought itself. Think of your mind as a vast sky. Thoughts, including the critic, are like clouds passing through. Some are dark and heavy, some are light and fleeting, but no matter how many clouds appear, the sky itself remains untouched. You are that sky. The critic is only a cloud. Sometimes, the critic grows strongest at night, when the world is quiet and the distractions fade. You lie in bed, and suddenly it begins replaying old mistakes, imagining future failures, weaving stories of shame. In those moments, it feels impossible to escape. But you can try this. Place your hand gently on your heart, breathe slowly, and whisper, "I am more than this voice. I am the one who hears it. I am the sky, not the cloud." Repeat it until your body softens, until the critic loses its grip. Healing this wound takes time. The critic has been with you for years, perhaps for most of your life. But remember this, it is not your enemy. It is a misguided protector, born of fear. When you learn to meet it with compassion rather than resistance, it begins to change. Slowly, its harsh words soften. Slowly, the voice that once hurt you becomes quieter, even supportive. You may not believe this now, but the critic can transform into wisdom. When met with kindness, it no longer says, "Don't try, you'll fail." Instead, it may whisper, "Be gentle with yourself if it doesn't work out." It no longer says, "You're worthless." It begins to say, "You are learning, you are growing, you are worthy of love as you are." So as you rest tonight, if the critic begins to speak, do not fight it. Do not try to silence it. Simply notice it, breathe, and return to the truth. You are not the voice in your head. You are the vastness beneath it. You are the awareness that holds it. And in that awareness, you are already free. Take a slow breath now. Inhale, filling your lungs gently. Exhale, releasing the weight of every cruel word you have ever believed. Inhale compassion. Exhale self-judgment. Inhale love. Exhale fear. And as you drift towards sleep, let this truth settle deep within you. The critic may still arise, but it no longer rules you. You are more than your wounds. You are more than the voice of fear. You are the one who has survived every word, every doubt, every shadow. And tonight, you are learning to carry this wound not as a burden, but as a teacher, guiding you back to compassion. There is a weight that many of us carry without realizing just how heavy it has become. It does not rest on the shoulders like a physical burden, yet it bends the spirit, slows the breath, clouds the mind. This weight is called regret. Regret is a sack we sling across our backs, filled with all the choices we wish we had made differently. Some stones inside are small missed opportunities, words left unsaid, things we forgot to do. Others are enormous betrayals, mistakes, decisions that changed the course of a life. And because we rarely take the time to open this sack, it grows heavier with each passing year. Have you ever noticed how regret creeps into quiet moments? Perhaps as you lie awake at night, the mind begins replaying scenes like an old film reel. The moment you hurt someone you loved, the time you turned away from your own truth, the chance you missed and cannot get back. The critic in your mind joins in, whispering, "If only you had been better, braver, wiser," and the sack of regret grows heavier still. But here is the truth. Regret is not meant to be carried forever. Its purpose is not to punish you endlessly. Regret is a messenger asking you to listen, to learn, to grow. Yet most of us mistake the messenger for a jailer. We chain ourselves to the past, dragging it through every present moment, as if by suffering long enough we might finally undo what has already been done. Think of how you treat yourself when regret surfaces. Do you soften, or do you tighten? Do you breathe, or do you hold your breath? Most of us clench against it, hoping to push it away, yet ironically giving it even more power. The Buddha taught that clinging is the root of suffering, and regret is one of the most subtle forms of clinging. Clinging to the past, clinging to the fantasy of a different outcome, clinging to the impossible dream that what happened could somehow be erased. But nothing in life is erased, it is transformed. The past cannot be undone, but it can be understood. The wound cannot vanish, but it can become wisdom. Imagine sitting down on the side of a quiet path. You take off the sack of regret and place it before you. For the first time you open it. Inside are the stones of your past. Pick one up. Feel its weight. Name it softly. This is the time I spoke in anger. This is the opportunity I let slip. This is the love I could not hold. Notice how each stone carries a story. Notice how each story still asks to be acknowledged. And as you hold it, breathe. Whisper, "I see you. I forgive myself for not knowing better then. I release the weight, but I keep the lesson." Then gently place the stone down, not back in the sack, but on the ground. One by one, you begin to lighten the load. This is not easy. Some stones may feel impossible to set down. You may feel you deserve to carry them forever. But ask yourself, Does punishing yourself endlessly serve anyone? Does it heal the past, or does it only deepen the wound? Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. Forgiveness means you choose to stop carrying what was never meant to be carried forever. The body, too, remembers regret. It shows up as tension in the chest, heaviness in the stomach, restlessness in the legs. Sometimes, the best way to begin releasing regret is not through the mind, but through the body. Place your hand on the place that feels heavy. Breathe into it. As you exhale, imagine a small portion of the burden leaving with the breath. Slowly, gently, over time, the body learns it no longer has to hold so tightly. There is a saying in Zen, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. This is the essence of practice. Life is not about never falling, never making mistakes. It is about rising again, each time with greater awareness, greater compassion. Regret is only heavy when we mistake it for proof of our unworthiness. In truth, regret is evidence of our humanity, of our capacity to care, of our longing to live more wisely. If you had no regret, it would mean you had never loved deeply enough to wish you had done better. It would mean you had never risked enough to make mistakes. Regret shows that you are alive, that you have cared, that you are learning. Tonight, as you rest, imagine placing that sack of regret by your bedside. Whisper to it, "Thank you for your lessons. I will carry your wisdom, but not your weight." Let yourself feel how different it is to live without the constant burden. Feel the lightness in your chest, the ease in your breath, the spaciousness in your heart. And as you drift into sleep, let this truth settle within you. The past is unchangeable, but the present is alive. Every breath is a chance to begin again. Every sunrise is an opportunity to live differently. Regret is not the end of your story. It is the soil from which compassion grows. And tonight, you can finally set down what has been too heavy for too long. Life often feels like a sky filled with clouds. Some days, the clouds are soft and white, drifting lazily across a calm horizon. Other days, they gather dark and heavy, blocking out the sun, rumbling with storms. And yet, no matter how thick the clouds become, the vastness of the sky remains untouched. You are that sky. The wounds you carry, the regrets that weigh you down, the critic that whispers inside your mind, these are clouds. They may appear overwhelming, they may obscure your light, but they are not the truth of who you are. Beneath them, there is always an endless expanse of clarity, presence, and peace. The problem is that most of us mistake the clouds for the sky. We identify with every passing thought, every painful emotion, every fleeting story of the mind. We say, "I am anxious, I am broken, I am unworthy." But what if you could shift your perspective? What if, instead of saying, "I am anxious," you said, "Anxiety is passing through me"? Instead of, "I am broken," you whispered, "A wound is moving through my awareness." Do you feel the difference? One makes you the cloud, the other reminds you that you are the sky. The Buddha often compared the mind to the vastness of space. He taught that thoughts, feelings, sensations are like weather, impermanent, changing, never fixed. When we cling to them, we suffer. When we learn to let them pass, we discover freedom. Think about the last storm you experienced in your life. Maybe it was grief after losing someone you loved. Maybe it was fear about an uncertain future. Maybe it was shame that seemed to follow you everywhere. In the midst of that storm, it felt endless, didn't it? It seemed like the sky of your being would never see the sun again. And yet, somehow, the storm passed. Maybe slowly, maybe violently, but it passed. The sun returned. The sky cleared. This is the nature of everything you feel. Nothing is permanent. Every cloud dissolves in time. The tragedy is that when the clouds come, we forget the sky. We become so entangled in the storm that we believe it defines us. But the practice of awareness, the gentle art of mindfulness, is learning to remember the sky even in the middle of the clouds. It is reminding yourself, this pain is here, but it is not forever. This fear is present, but it will pass. I am larger than this storm. Close your eyes for a moment and take a slow, deep breath. As you inhale, imagine drawing in the vast blue of the open sky. As you exhale, imagine releasing a cloud, perhaps a worry, perhaps a memory, perhaps a heaviness you've been carrying. Watch it drift away on the wind of your breath. With each inhale and exhale, the sky within you becomes clearer, more spacious, more free. Sometimes people ask, but what if the clouds never leave? What if the pain never goes away? And the answer is that even then, the sky remains. You do not need a cloudless sky to know peace. You need only to remember that the clouds are not the whole of who you are. Even when storms rage, the sky does not disappear. It holds everything, without resistance, without judgment, and so can you. There is a story from the Zen tradition about a monk who was asked, "Master, what is the nature of the mind?" He pointed to the sky and said, "Vast, empty, and clear." Then the student asked, "But what about the thoughts, the emotions, the turmoil?" The master smiled and replied, "They are clouds. Let them come, let them go. The sky remains." Your wounds too are clouds. They may have shaped your journey, but they do not define your essence. Your regrets are clouds, heavy perhaps, but not eternal. Even your inner critic is just another cloud, loud, stormy, but incapable of touching the vast sky beneath. When you remember this, you reclaim your freedom. Think of a time you were completely absorbed in something beautiful, watching a sunset, listening to music that touched your soul, holding someone you love. In those moments, the clouds seemed to vanish. Where were your worries? Where was your shame? They had dissolved, if only for a moment, revealing the sky that had always been there. That sky is your true nature, always present, always waiting, even when hidden. So how do we live with this awareness? By practicing presence, moment by moment. Each time a painful thought arises, note it gently. Cloud. Each time regret stirs in your chest, breathe and whisper. Cloud. Each time the critic speaks harshly, smile softly and say, Cloud. Do not cling, do not resist. Let them pass. Over time, this simple practice changes everything. The clouds may still come, but they no longer overwhelm you. You no longer confuse them with the sky. You no longer confuse passing storms with your permanent identity. You become the witness, the vastness, the open space in which everything arises and dissolves. As you prepare for sleep tonight, imagine yourself lying beneath a wide, open sky. Above you, clouds drift by thoughts, worries, emotions, but the sky remains still, holding them all. You do not need to chase the clouds or force them to disappear. You only need to rest as the sky, spacious and unshaken. Take one more deep breath. Inhale the vastness, exhale the storm. Inhale the clarity, exhale the heaviness. Inhale the peace of the sky, exhale the weight of the clouds. And as you drift into rest, let this truth stay with you. You are not your wounds, you are not your regrets, you are not the critic's voice. You are the sky that holds them all. And the sky, no matter how stormy the weather, is always vast, always whole, always free. There is a wound so subtle, so deeply woven into our lives, that many of us mistake it for the truth of who we are. It whispers in the quiet moments, it shouts when we dare to dream, it lingers in the background even on our brightest days. It is the illusion of. This illusion begins early. Perhaps as a child, you were told you had to do better, to be stronger, to be quieter, to be louder, to be different than who you naturally were. Perhaps love felt conditional, given only when you performed, withdrawn when you failed. Slowly, without realizing it, you learned to believe that love was not for who you are, but for what you do. And so the seed of was planted. As you grew older, the world watered this seed. Advertisements told you that you needed more to be beautiful, more to be successful, more to be happy. Schools measured your worth with grades. Workplaces measured your value with productivity. Social media compared your behind-the-scenes struggles with everyone else's highlight reels. No wonder so many of us live with the constant ache of feeling incomplete. And yet, this is an illusion. It has no substance of its own. Like a mirage in the desert, it appears real from a distance, but when you reach for it, there is nothing there. Still, the illusion is powerful, because when we believe it, we live as if it were true. We chase endlessly more achievements, more possessions, more approval, hoping one day to finally feel complete. But like trying to fill a bucket full of holes, the more we pour in, the more it leaks out. The Buddha taught that craving is one of the root causes of suffering. Craving arises from the belief that we are lacking, that something is missing, that happiness lives just beyond the next milestone. But no matter how much we grasp, we are never satisfied, because we are feeding the illusion instead of dissolving it. Imagine a person standing in front of a mirror. Instead of seeing themselves clearly, they see a foggy reflection. They keep scrubbing the mirror, polishing, changing the lighting, hoping the image will become perfect. But the fog is not on the mirror, it is in their mind. No matter how hard they try to fix the reflection, they never feel enough, because they are looking through the distortion of illusion. So how do we see through this illusion? The first step is awareness. Notice when the thought arises, I am not enough. Do not argue with it, do not obey it. Simply recognize it for what it is, a cloud passing through the sky of your mind. Whisper softly, ah, here is the illusion again. In that moment, you remember the truth. Thoughts are not facts. Feelings are not proof. Illusions have no power once they are seen clearly. The second step is compassion. Place your hand over your heart and speak to yourself the way you would to a dear friend. You are enough as you are. You do not need to earn your own love. At first, these words may feel strange, even false. But with time, they begin to sink in. The heart begins to believe what the illusion had hidden all along, that worth is not earned, it is inherent. The third step is presence. When you are caught in the illusion of the mind is always somewhere else, replaying the past, worrying about the future, comparing with others. But in the present moment, none of that exists. In the present, there is only breath, only life, only this moment. And in this moment, you are enough, because you are alive, you are breathing, you are here. Think of a child playing in the grass. The child does not stop to wonder, am I enough? They do not compare their laughter to someone else's. They do not question whether they deserve joy. They simply live, fully, freely. That same innocence still lives within you, waiting to be remembered. Close your eyes for a moment now. Take a slow, gentle breath. As you inhale, imagine drawing in a soft light that fills every corner of your being. As you exhale, release the illusion of like smoke dissolving into the air. With each breath, feel yourself returning to the truth. I am whole. I am complete. I am enough. End quote. There is a Zen story of a monk who asked his teacher, "What is enlightenment?" The teacher replied, "When you realize there is nothing lacking, this is the heart of the practice." Enlightenment is not about becoming something greater. It is about realizing that nothing has ever been missing. You are not defined by the number of mistakes you have made. You are not measured by the amount of approval you receive. You are not incomplete because of the scars you carry. You are enough simply because you exist. The breath moving through you is proof of your belonging. The beating of your heart is evidence of your worth. So tonight, as you prepare to rest, release the illusion of. Imagine laying it down beside you like a cloak you no longer need to wear. Feel the lightness in your body, the spaciousness in your mind, the peace in your heart. Whisper softly to yourself, I am enough. I have always been enough. I will always be enough. And let those words settle deep within you as you drift into sleep, and may you awaken tomorrow with a lighter spirit, free from the illusion, ready to live from the truth of your wholeness. Healing begins not with fixing, not with resisting, but with recognition. For so long, many of us have lived as though our wounds were mistakes to be hidden, flaws to be corrected, or weaknesses to be ashamed of. We bury them deep, hoping that if we ignore them long enough, they will disappear. But what is hidden does not vanish. It waits. It waits for the simple, powerful act of being seen. Recognition is the doorway through which healing enters. To recognize your wounds is to say, yes, you are here. Yes, I see you. Yes, I will sit with you instead of pushing you away. This is not an act of indulgence, but an act of courage. To acknowledge your pain does not make you weak. It makes you human. It makes you whole. The Buddha once said, "What you resist persists, but what you embrace transforms." When you resist your wounds, they grow sharper. When you deny them, they become louder. But when you turn toward them with gentle awareness, something begins to change. Like a child crying for attention, your wounds soften the moment they are held. Think of the times when you have felt deep sadness, anger, or fear. Perhaps you told yourself to be strong, to move on, to suppress the feeling, and perhaps it only grew heavier, pressing harder against your chest. Now imagine if, in that moment, you had paused, taken a breath, and simply said, sadness is here, anger is here, fear is here. No judgment, no resistance, just recognition. Already the intensity lessens. Already the feeling becomes something you can hold, instead of something that overwhelms you. There is a Zen practice called sitting with what is. You do not try to change the experience. You do not try to escape it. You simply sit, breathing, allowing it to unfold. Over time, you begin to see that emotions are not solid. They are like waves rising, cresting, and falling. Recognition is the anchor that keeps you steady as the waves pass. Your wounds are not enemies. They are messengers. Regret tells you that you care deeply. The critic reminds you of your longing to be safe. Fear points toward what matters most. When you recognize them, you begin to hear the wisdom beneath the pain. Anger may reveal where your boundaries were crossed. Sadness may reveal the depth of your love. Even shame, when seen clearly, shows you the parts of yourself still longing for acceptance. Close your eyes for a moment now. Place your hand gently over your heart. Take a slow breath in, and as you exhale, whisper softly, "I see you." Whatever arises in this moment, an ache, a memory, a feeling, welcome it as you would a guest in your home. You do not need to solve it. You do not need to understand it completely. You only need to acknowledge it. In that recognition, healing begins. This is the paradox of the human heart. The more we try to run from our wounds, the more power they have over us. But the moment we stop running, the moment we turn and face them with gentle eyes, they begin to lose their grip. Healing does not mean the wound never existed. It means the wound no longer controls your life. There is a story of a man who carried anger in his chest for many years. He tried to hide it, to deny it, to pretend it wasn't there. But the anger leaked out in his words, in his relationships, in his health. One day, he finally sat in silence and allowed himself to feel the anger fully. To his surprise, beneath the fire of anger was grief, and beneath the grief was love. Love for what he had lost, love for what he wished had been different. In that recognition, he wept, and in his weeping, the anger softened. The wound began to heal, not because it vanished, but because it was finally acknowledged. Your healing will come in the same way, not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, gently, like ice melting in the sun. Each time you recognize a wound instead of rejecting it, you melt another layer of pain. Each time you breathe with your feelings instead of running from them, you create space for light to enter. So often, people fear that if they allow themselves to feel, they will be consumed. They fear the tears will never stop, the anger will never cool, the grief will never end. But emotions, when recognized, do not last forever. They only linger when ignored. Recognition allows them to complete their cycle, to move through you instead of getting stuck inside you. As you lie here tonight, preparing for rest, you do not need to heal everything at once. You do not need to unpack every wound in a single night. You only need to take one step: recognition. Whisper softly to yourself, "I see you. I honor you. I will not abandon you again." Feel the relief that comes from no longer hiding. Feel the lightness that comes from telling the truth to yourself. Take a deep breath now. Inhale gently, welcoming whatever arises. Exhale slowly, releasing resistance. Inhale presence. Exhale judgment. Inhale compassion. Exhale fear. And as you drift into sleep, remember this truth. Healing is not a destination. It is a relationship with yourself. Every time you recognize your wounds, you strengthen that relationship. Every time you sit with yourself in kindness, you weave a bond of trust, and in that bond, you discover what was true all along. You were never broken. You were always whole. The wounds were not signs of failure. They were invitations to feel more deeply, to love more fully, to live more freely. Rest now in that recognition. Rest in the knowing that healing has already begun. So far, we have spoken of the wounds you carry, the critic that whispers in your mind, the weight of regret, the clouds that cover your sky. And slowly, gently, you have learned to recognize these truths without running. But this recognition leads naturally to another question, one that lies at the heart of the journey. If I am to heal, if I am to live fully, what does it truly mean to love myself? Self-love is one of the most misunderstood ideas in our world today. For some, it sounds like vanity, like staring into the mirror with pride or indulging selfish desires without concern for others. For others, it feels like an impossible task. How can I love myself when I see all my flaws so clearly, when I know the mistakes I have made? But true self-love is none of these things. The Buddha did not speak of self-love in the modern language we use, but his teachings pointed to it again and again. He spoke of compassion, not only for others, but for oneself. He spoke of mindfulness, learning to stay present with our own hearts. He spoke of the middle way, not drowning in self-indulgence, not lost in self-denial, but walking gently, with balance. To love yourself is not to ignore your shadows. It is to recognize them, to sit with them, and still say, I will not abandon you. I will not withhold kindness from you. It is to treat yourself the way you wish others had treated you, the way you naturally treat those you love most deeply. Think of a garden. If you wish for it to flourish, you do not curse the soil for being dry. You water it. You do not shout at the flowers for wilting. You give them sunlight. You do not pull up the roots to make them grow faster. You wait patiently, tending with care. Your heart is the same. Self-love is the art of tending to your inner garden with patience and compassion, even when growth is slow, even when the seasons feel harsh. So many of us, however, treat ourselves like barren land. We scold ourselves when we falter. We deprive ourselves of rest. We demand perfection before we allow kindness. Imagine speaking to a friend this way. I'll only love you when you succeed. I'll only comfort you when you never fail. That would not be friendship at all. And yet, we often create such conditions for our own hearts. True self-love dissolves those conditions. It whispers, even when I stumble, I am worthy of care. Even when I fall, I deserve to rise gently. Even when I make mistakes, I remain lovable. There is a story of a teacher who once asked his students to write down the harshest things they had said to themselves in the past week. One by one, they read the words aloud. You're not good enough. You'll never change. You're a failure. Then the teacher asked, would you ever say these things to a friend? The room fell silent. Every student shook their head, and the teacher said, then why is your own heart not worthy of the same kindness? To love yourself truly is to speak to yourself as you would to someone you cherish. It is to become a safe place for your own spirit, so that no matter what storms rage outside, you know you can return home to yourself without fear of judgment. This love is not indulgence. It does not mean ignoring responsibility or avoiding growth. In fact, it is the opposite. When you love yourself, you create the foundation from which genuine growth becomes possible. Just as a child learns best not through punishment but through encouragement, your heart unfolds best when nourished by kindness. Consider the times in your life when you changed, not because someone shamed you, but because someone believed in you. That same energy is available within you. When you turn it inward, when you encourage yourself instead of condemning yourself, you awaken the courage to transform. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a slow, steady breath. Whisper inwardly, "I am worthy of my own kindness." Let that truth settle. Then whisper again, "I am enough as I am, even as I grow." Feel how these words soften the body, how they create space around the heart. This is the energy of self-love. The illusion of that we explored earlier begins to dissolve the moment you practice this. Not because you convince yourself of perfection, but because you realize perfection was never required. You were never meant to be flawless. You were meant to be human, alive, imperfect, learning, loving. Imagine again the garden of your heart. Some areas are blooming with joy. Others are barren, waiting for attention. Some corners may be overgrown with weeds of old habits, old fears. Self-love does not judge these differences. It simply tends, with gentle hands, with patience, with faith. Over time, the garden flourishes, not because it was forced, but because it was nurtured. This is what self-love truly means. It is not selfishness, it is not arrogance, it is not denial of your flaws. It is the quiet, steady practice of returning to yourself with kindness, again and again, no matter how many times you have strayed. As you prepare to rest tonight, imagine yourself wrapping your own heart in a blanket of compassion. Feel the warmth, the safety, the acceptance. Whisper softly, "I am here for you. I will not leave you. I love you." And as sleep carries you gently away, know this: self-love is not a destination you must reach. It is a way of walking, a way of breathing, a way of being. Each breath you take with kindness, each word you speak with compassion, each choice you make with care, this is self-love in action. Let it guide you, let it heal you, let it remind you, tonight and always, that you are already whole, already worthy, already enough. When people hear the words, "love yourself," many imagine it means pampering or indulgence, long baths, favorite desserts, buying something new to feel better. And while these gestures can be comforting, they are only surface level. True self-love is not indulgence. It is something deeper, steadier, more lasting. It is not about escaping life's struggles for a moment, but about tending to the soil of your being so that everything you do can grow from a place of health and wholeness. Think of your inner life as a garden. Every thought, every word, every action is like a seed you plant. Some seeds grow into flowers of kindness and patience. Others grow into weeds of doubt and self-criticism. Some patches of soil may have been neglected for years, dry and barren. Others may bloom naturally with joy. Your work is not to force the garden to look perfect. Your work is to tend to it lovingly, knowing that with time and care, beauty will appear. Too often, we confuse indulgence with nourishment. Indulgence gives temporary relief, but often leaves the soil untouched. Nourishment, on the other hand, goes deeper. It enriches the ground, prepares it for seasons of growth, and sustains you long after the moment has passed. Consider the difference between eating to numb your feelings and eating to truly nourish your body. The first may distract you for a moment, but afterward the hunger of the heart remains. The second honors the body, strengthens it, and leaves you feeling cared for from within. In the same way, true self-love does not cover up your wounds with temporary pleasures. It meets them with compassion, waters them with patience, and allows healing to take root. Imagine walking through an actual garden. Some plants are blooming, some are struggling, some areas are tangled with weeds. If you were a gentle gardener, what would you do? You would water the thirsty plants. You would prune the overgrown branches. You would give sunlight to the flowers hidden in the shade. You would not scold the plants for not growing fast enough. You would not compare the rose to the sunflower. You would not abandon the soil just because weeds had appeared. You would tend, day after day, with quiet devotion. This is how self-love works. It is not about demanding perfection from yourself. It is not about rewarding yourself only when you succeed. It is about tending to your inner world with consistency and compassion, even on days when you feel barren, even in seasons when you feel stuck. The Buddha taught about right effort, not the frantic effort of striving or grasping, but the gentle effort of tending, of cultivating what is wholesome and letting go of what is harmful. In the garden of the heart, right effort means noticing which seeds you water. Do you water seeds of self-criticism by repeating harsh words to yourself? Or do you water seeds of self-love by speaking kindly? Do you nurture seeds of fear by replaying worries? Or do you nurture seeds of courage by breathing into the present moment? The beautiful thing about a garden is that it responds to even the smallest acts of care. One drop of water can revive a drooping flower. A bit of sunlight can awaken a seed long dormant. In the same way, even the smallest gestures of self-love matter. One kind word whispered to yourself in the dark. One breath taken with awareness. One promise kept to your own heart. These small acts accumulate, slowly transforming your inner landscape. Many people give up on self-love because they expect immediate results. They look into the mirror once, whisper an affirmation, and when the old doubts return, they think they have failed. But a garden does not bloom in a single day. It requires patience. Some seeds take time to sprout. Some plants grow slowly. But if you remain consistent, if you continue to water, the transformation becomes undeniable. Close your eyes for a moment now. Picture your inner world as a vast, living garden. See the areas of beauty, the flowers that remind you of your joys, your strengths, your moments of love. Then see the barren places, the patches of soil that have been neglected. Do not judge them. Do not feel ashamed. Simply notice them as a gardener would. Place your hand gently on your heart and whisper, "I will tend to you. I will not abandon you. Even the barren places deserve my care." This is the shift beyond indulgence. It is not about covering the soil with artificial flowers to make it look beautiful for others. It is about rolling up your sleeves, kneeling in the dirt, and giving real living attention to what is here. It is about nourishing the roots, not just painting the leaves. And what is the result of this kind of care? A garden that sustains you, not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. A heart that feels safe, steady, alive. A life that blossoms from the inside out, not because it was forced, but because it was nurtured. So as you prepare for sleep tonight, imagine yourself as both the garden and the gardener. You are the soil, rich with potential. You are the seeds, waiting to bloom. And you are the gentle hands that tend, water, and care. Whisper softly to yourself, I will tend to my garden. I will nourish my heart. I will love myself, not with indulgence, but with true care. Let these words carry you into rest. And as you drift into dreams, know this: the garden of your heart is already beautiful. It only asks for your steady, patient love to help it bloom. One of the greatest obstacles people face when learning to love themselves is the fear that it might be selfish. From childhood, many of us were taught to put others first, to give, to sacrifice, to care for everyone else before turning any attention inward. And while generosity and kindness are noble, when misunderstood they can become distorted, leaving us drained, resentful, and quietly broken inside. The Buddha spoke often of compassion, but he never said it should be reserved only for others. True compassion flows in two directions, outward and inward. Like the breath, it moves in and out, balanced, natural. If you only inhale, you cannot live. If you only exhale, you cannot survive. In the same way, if you only give compassion away without ever receiving it yourself, you eventually collapse. Think about what happens when you try to pour water from an empty cup. No matter how much someone else needs it, nothing comes out. You must first fill the cup before you can share it. This is not selfishness. This is wisdom. When you love yourself, when you fill your own cup with care, you are better able to love others fully and freely. Yet many of us hesitate. We fear that if we say no, we are unkind. We fear that if we take time for ourselves, we are neglecting our responsibilities. We fear that if we acknowledge our own needs, we are weak. But these fears come from misunderstanding. Self-love is not self-centeredness. Self-love is the foundation of genuine service. Imagine two people helping others. The first ignores their own needs. They give constantly, but inside they are exhausted, resentful, running on empty. Their smile is forced, their kindness strained. The second takes time to rest, to nourish themselves, to tend to their own well-being. When they give, it is with fullness, with joy, with no hidden bitterness. Which one truly serves? Which one spreads love that heals rather than drains? When you love yourself, you do not take away from others. You create more to give. You become a source, a wellspring. People can feel the difference. A heart that is full radiates warmth effortlessly. A heart that is empty tries, but cannot sustain the weight of constant giving. There is a story of a monk who was asked, "Master, how do I know when to give to others and when to care for myself?" The monk replied, "It is like tending a fire. If you give away all your wood to others, your fire will die, and you will have nothing left to share. If you hoard all your wood and never give, your fire will burn too hot and consume you. But if you tend the fire wisely, feeding it steadily, it will warm you and everyone around you." This is the middle way. To care for yourself without neglecting others. To care for others without abandoning yourself. Balance. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your heart as a small flame. Notice if it feels strong or weak, steady or flickering. If it feels dim, do not judge it. Simply recognize that it is asking for more fuel. Rest. kindness, time, compassion. Whisper softly, I will tend to you. I will keep you burning steady. Each act of self-love is like placing another log on the fire, and the brighter your flame, the more warmth you can share with the world. Perhaps you still feel resistance. Perhaps you worry, if I love myself too much, won't I become selfish? Won't I become arrogant? But arrogance and selfishness do not come from too much love. They come from too little. They arise from emptiness, from the hunger of not knowing your own worth. People grasp, boast, and take because they are trying to fill an inner void. A heart that is truly full of love has no need to take more. It naturally gives. Think of the sun. It shines effortlessly, without asking for anything in return. Its warmth nurtures plants, animals, humans, all life. Does anyone accuse the sun of being selfish for shining? The sun does not shine for itself, nor against others. It shines because that is its nature. When you love yourself, you become like the sun, radiating warmth, not because you are trying to prove anything, but because you cannot help but overflow. The Buddha once said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. To ignore this truth is not humility, it is neglect. To deny yourself love is to deny the very foundation of compassion. So tonight, as you rest, allow yourself to let go of the fear of selfishness. Place your hand gently over your heart. Take a slow, deep breath. Whisper inwardly, it is safe to love myself. It is wise to love myself. When I love myself, I bring more love to the world. Feel how your body softens at these words. Feel how your heart warms. Feel how even your breath becomes easier. This is what happens when you release the illusion of selfishness. You realize that self-love is not a wall that separates you from others. It is a bridge that connects you more deeply. As you drift into sleep, imagine yourself as both the sun and the flame, steady, glowing, radiant. Your light warms not only your own heart, but the hearts of those around you. And tomorrow, when you rise, you will carry this truth within you. To love yourself is not selfish. To love yourself is to tend the fire that lights the world. Compassion is a word we often reserve for others. We think of comforting a friend in pain, forgiving someone who has made a mistake, or softening our hearts toward those who suffer. And yet, how rarely do we turn that same compassion inward? We are quick to offer kindness outwardly, but toward ourselves we wield judgment, impatience, and blame. The Buddha taught that compassion is boundless, that it must include all beings without exception, and you too are one of those beings. To exclude yourself from compassion is to misunderstand its very essence. Imagine a candle flame. Its light shines in every direction, not choosing where to glow. In the same way, true compassion cannot shine only outward. It must also illuminate your own heart. Think about the times you've comforted others. You may have said, "It's okay, everyone makes mistakes. You did your best. You are still loved." Now compare that with the words you say to yourself when you falter. Do you offer the same kindness? Or do you whisper, "You're not good enough. You'll never get it right. What's wrong with you?" The difference is striking. You already know how to be compassionate. You show it to others every day. The challenge is remembering that you deserve it too. Compassion begins inward. It begins with noticing your suffering without turning away. It begins with holding your pain as you would hold a child who is crying gently, without judgment, without rushing to make it stop. Too often, we treat our pain as an inconvenience, something to hide or fix quickly. But the heart does not need fixing. It needs presence. Imagine for a moment that your inner life is like a small child who has been left alone in the dark. That child trembles, afraid, longing for comfort. When you ignore your pain, it is as if you leave that child waiting. But when you turn toward yourself with compassion, you walk into the room, kneel down and whisper, "I am here. You are not alone." Can you feel the difference? One deepens the wound, the other begins to heal it. Compassion inward does not mean you stop caring for others. In fact, it strengthens your ability to care. When your own heart is tended, you can meet the suffering of others without being overwhelmed, without burning out. Your compassion becomes steady, sustainable, alive. There is a practice in Buddhism called metta, or loving kindness meditation. It begins with yourself. You sit quietly, breathe, and repeat phrases like, "May I be safe, may I be healthy, may I be happy, may I live with ease." At first, these words may feel awkward. They may even stir resistance. "I don't deserve this. I should focus on others." But with practice, the heart softens, the soil becomes receptive, the seeds of compassion begin to grow. Only then do you extend the same phrases outward, to friends, to strangers, even to those who have hurt you. But it always begins with yourself. Without inward compassion, outward compassion can become hollow. You may appear kind on the surface, but inside you feel empty, resentful, or unseen. Compassion that flows only outward without inward roots eventually dries up, but when it begins inward, it overflows naturally, abundantly. Think of a tree. It does not apologize for drawing water into its roots. It does not feel selfish for absorbing sunlight. By nourishing itself, it becomes strong enough to offer shade, fruit, and shelter to countless others. Your inward compassion works the same way. By giving yourself what you need, you become strong enough to give others what they need. Close your eyes now and place a hand gently on your chest. Feel the rise and fall of your breath. Whisper softly, "May I be kind to myself. May I be gentle with my own heart." Notice how these words land in your body. Do they feel foreign? Do they feel uncomfortable? That's okay. It only means this is new soil. With time, it will become fertile. With practice, these words will feel like home. Perhaps tonight, as you lie in the quiet, memories surface times you wish you had been stronger, wiser, kinder. Instead of turning away, greet those memories with compassion. Say to yourself, "I forgive you. You were doing the best you could with what you knew. I will not abandon you now." This is not weakness. This is strength. To meet yourself with compassion in your moments of pain is one of the bravest acts you can ever choose. And slowly, as this compassion grows, you will notice a shift. The critic's voice becomes quieter. The weight of regret feels lighter. The illusion of begins to dissolve. Because compassion is like sunlight, it does not argue with the shadows. It simply shines, and the shadows lose their power. So as you drift into sleep tonight, let compassion flow inward. Wrap yourself in its warmth, as if in a soft blanket. Whisper once more, "May I be safe, may I be healthy, may I be at ease, may I be loved." And trust that as you sleep, these words will continue their work, softening the soil of your heart, preparing it for the flowers of tomorrow. There is a story told in many villages, simple yet timeless. A traveler comes to a well, parched with thirst after walking under the burning sun. But when he leans over to draw water, he finds the well is dry. The stones echo, the bucket rattles, but there is nothing left to give. The well had once been full, generous, sustaining the life of everyone who came to it. But because no one took the time to replenish it, it slowly dried, leaving behind only emptiness. This is what happens to us when we give without self-care. We begin with a heart full of love, eager to serve, to care, to comfort. And at first it feels good. We pour ourselves into family, into work, into friends, into causes. But slowly, quietly, the water begins to run low. Fatigue sets in, resentment creeps in. Our body whispers in aches and exhaustion. Our mind spins with restlessness. And one day, when someone asks for more, we discover we have nothing left to give. The Buddha often spoke of balance, of the middle way. He warned against extremes, too much indulgence on one side, too much denial on the other. When we give endlessly without replenishment, we are living in an extreme. We confuse sacrifice with love, as if exhausting ourselves proves our worth. But exhaustion is not proof of love. It is proof of imbalance. Think of how you feel when you are depleted. Perhaps you still try to show up for others, but your kindness is forced, your patience is thin, your smile is strained. Instead of warmth, you radiate weariness. Instead of compassion, you radiate obligation. This is not the gift you wish to give, and yet it is all you have left when your well has run dry. Now think of how you feel when you are nourished, when you have rested, when you have breathed deeply, when you have cared for your own heart. Then, when you give, it flows easily. Your smile is genuine. Your kindness is effortless. Your patience stretches wide. You are not depleting yourself. You are overflowing. Which of these gifts would you rather offer the world? There is a saying, "You cannot pour from an empty cup," but I would add, "You cannot draw from an empty well." Both remind us of the same truth, that self-care is not selfishness, it is responsibility. By tending to yourself, you ensure that your love remains sustainable, steady, alive. The risk of ignoring this truth is great. Burnout, resentment, illness. A heart that once overflowed becomes dry, brittle, closed. And when that happens, not only do you suffer, but those who depend on you also suffer, because the love you offer them is no longer whole. The way forward is simple, though not always easy. It is to recognize that you too deserve care, that your well must be filled regularly, that rest, nourishment, and kindness toward yourself are not luxuries to be earned, but necessities to be honored. How do you fill your well? Sometimes it is through silence, giving yourself permission to pause. Sometimes it is through nature, walking slowly under trees, listening to the language of the wind. Sometimes it is through creativity, writing, painting, singing, moving in ways that let the soul breathe. Sometimes it is simply through saying no, allowing yourself to step back when the world demands too much. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your inner well. See its stones, feel its depth. Notice whether the water inside feels full or shallow. If it feels low, do not judge it. Simply notice. Place your hand over your heart and whisper, "I will refill you. I will tend to you. I will not let you run dry." Each act of self-love is like rain filling your well. Each breath taken with awareness, each boundary honored, each night of true rest. Over time, the water rises again, cool and clear, ready to nourish you and all who come near. The world does not benefit from your exhaustion. The world benefits from your aliveness. When you give from fullness, your love heals. When you give from emptiness, your love strains. True generosity begins not with sacrifice, but with wholeness. So as you prepare for sleep tonight, release the belief that you must give until nothing is left. Imagine your well-being filled, drop by drop, with compassion. With every inhale, rain falls gently into it. With every exhale, it deepens, steadies, strengthens. Whisper softly, "I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to receive. By filling myself, I give more to others." Let these words carry you into dream. And when you wake, may you rise not depleted, but replenished. May your well be full, your heart be steady, your love abundant. Because only then can you truly give, not from emptiness, but from the overflowing waters of a soul well cared for. We have spoken of wounds and recognition, of self-love and the garden of the heart. But knowing these truths is only the beginning. Healing requires more than understanding. It requires practice. Just as a musician does not master their craft by reading about music, we do not heal by thinking about compassion alone. We heal by embodying it, by practicing it, breath by breath, moment by moment, until it becomes the rhythm of our lives. The Buddha often reminded his students that liberation does not come from words, not even from sacred teachings, but from practice. A teaching is like a seed. It holds infinite potential, but only when planted, watered, and tended does it bloom. The same is true for healing. The ideas of compassion, self-love, and awareness are beautiful seeds, but they must be planted in the soil of your daily life. Without practice, they remain only possibilities. With practice, they become transformation. So what does practice mean? It does not mean striving to be perfect. It does not mean forcing yourself into long hours of rigid meditation. It does not mean adding yet another task to an already heavy life. Practice is gentler than that. Practice is simply the willingness to return, again and again, to the present moment with kindness. Imagine your heart as a wounded bird. It cannot fly yet. It trembles when touched. If you rush, if you demand too much, the bird will retreat. But if you extend your hand with patience, if you move slowly, if you wait with quiet care, the bird will eventually settle into your palm. Healing practices work the same way. They invite you not to rush, not to force, but to stay, to listen, to hold. The first practice is awareness. Healing begins with noticing your breath, your body, your thoughts, your feelings, noticing without judgment. When your chest tightens, instead of ignoring it, you pause and breathe. When sadness arises, instead of drowning it in distractions, you whisper, "Sadness is here. I will sit with you." This awareness is not dramatic. It is gentle, steady, like a lantern glowing in the dark. It illuminates without burning. The second practice is kindness in speech, especially the speech you direct toward yourself. Words carry energy. They shape the way we see ourselves, the way we feel in our own skin. If you repeat harsh words inwardly, you build a prison of thorns. If you repeat gentle words, you create a home of peace. The practice is simple. Notice the words you speak to yourself and choose compassion. Replace "I am broken" with "I am healing." Replace "I am weak" with "I am learning." Replace "I am not enough" with "I am whole as I am." The third practice is presence in small acts. Healing does not happen only in meditation halls or retreats. It happens while you wash the dishes, while you walk outside, while you drink a glass of water. Each ordinary act can become extraordinary when done with awareness. Feel the warm water on your hands. Listen to the crunch of leaves beneath your feet. Taste the water as it touches your tongue. These small practices weave awareness into your daily life until it becomes natural. The fourth practice is forgiveness, not the kind that erases the past, but the kind that releases its grip. Forgiveness begins with yourself. It is the moment you whisper, "I was doing the best I could. I will not punish myself forever." From there, forgiveness can extend outward, softening the edges of your heart, allowing you to live with more freedom, less burden. And the fifth practice is rest. True rest, not just sleep, but the kind of rest where the body, mind, and heart are allowed to exhale. Rest is medicine. Rest is where wounds knit, where the heart remembers its rhythm, where the soul feels safe enough to open again. In our world, rest is often mistaken for laziness, but in truth, rest is one of the most sacred practices of healing. Close your eyes for a moment now. Take a slow breath. Ask yourself, what practice do I need most right now? Perhaps it is awareness. Perhaps it is kind speech. Perhaps it is forgiveness. Whatever it is, let it rise gently. Promise yourself to tend to it, not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Healing is not a single act. It is a way of living. It is the steady return, over and over, to compassion, to presence, to care. Some days you will forget. Some days you will resist. But each time you remember, each time you return, you strengthen the path beneath your feet. So as you prepare to rest tonight, do not pressure yourself to heal everything at once. Instead, choose one small practice. Perhaps place your hand on your heart and whisper, "I am safe." Perhaps take 3 slow breaths before sleep. Perhaps forgive yourself for one small regret. These are not small things. They are drops of water filling the well of your being. With time, they will overflow. And as you drift into dreams, trust that healing is already unfolding. Every breath you take with kindness is a step on the path. Every moment of awareness is a return home. Every act of compassion is a seed blooming in the garden of your heart. Words are powerful. They are not just sounds that fade into the air. Words can wound. Words can heal. Words can shape the way we see ourselves and the way we move through the world. The Buddha spoke of right speech as one part of the noble path, words that are true, kind, and beneficial. But many people forget that right speech does not apply only to the way we speak to others. It also applies to the way we speak to ourselves. Think for a moment about the words you repeat inside your mind. When you make a mistake, do you whisper, "I'm such a fool"? When you look into the mirror, do you mutter inwardly, "I don't like what I see"? When you feel tired, do you scold yourself with, "You're weak, you should do better"? These words may not be spoken aloud, but they are heard by the heart, and the heart remembers. It is said that the mind is like a house, and words are the builders. Harsh words build walls of thorns. Kind words build a shelter of peace. Each time you speak inwardly, you are shaping the home in which your soul resides. If you fill it with criticism, your inner home becomes cold and hostile. If you fill it with compassion, your inner home becomes warm and safe. Imagine a child learning to walk. They stumble and fall again and again. If you scold them every time, telling them they are clumsy, unworthy, hopeless, what will happen? The child will shrink. They will lose the courage to try. But if you encourage them, "It's okay, you're learning, keep going," the child will grow stronger, braver, more willing to rise after each fall. The same is true for you. The words you speak to yourself determine whether you shrink or whether you rise. Right speech within yourself is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is not about false positivity. It is about honesty and kindness walking hand in hand. Instead of, "I'll never get this right," you say, "I'm learning, and that is enough." Instead of, "I am worthless," you say, "I am human, and I deserve love." Instead of, "I failed," you say, "I tried, and I can try again." The shift may seem small, but its impact is profound. The inner critic thrives on harsh speech. It gains strength each time you repeat cruel phrases to yourself. But when you begin to replace those words with gentleness, the critic weakens, it loses its hold. And in its place, a new voice begins to rise, the voice of compassion. Close your eyes for a moment now, and bring to mind a phrase you often repeat inwardly. Notice the tone of it. Is it harsh? Is it judgmental? Does it leave you feeling heavy? Take a deep breath. And on your next exhale, imagine setting that phrase down, like laying a heavy stone on the ground. Whisper softly, "I choose to speak to myself with kindness." Then replace the phrase with something gentler, something true but compassionate. Notice how your body responds. There is a Zen saying, "Be careful how you speak to yourself. You are listening. Every word is like a seed planted in the soil of your being." What seeds have you been planting? Seeds of doubt, shame, and fear, or seeds of patience, hope, and love? The harvest of your life will grow from the seeds you sow. Right speech toward yourself is also about silence. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is not to speak at all. When the critic rises, when the mind begins its storm of harsh words, you can choose not to feed it. You can simply breathe, let the words drift away like clouds, and rest in the silence beneath. Silence can be healing, like cool water poured over fire. The Buddha described words as having the power to create karma. This does not mean punishment or reward, but simply cause and effect. The words you repeat to yourself shape the way you feel, the way you act, the way you live. Harsh words create suffering. Gentle words create peace. Each moment you choose compassion in speech, you are shaping a new destiny for your heart. Imagine for a moment that your mind is a garden and your words are the water. If you water weeds, they will grow. If you water flowers, they will bloom. Every phrase you speak to yourself is a drop of water. Where will you pour it? Tonight, as you prepare for rest, practice right speech inwardly. Place your hand gently on your heart. Take a deep breath. Whisper softly, "I am safe. I am enough. I am worthy of kindness." Repeat it slowly, letting each word sink into your body. Notice the warmth it creates, the peace it brings. And as you drift into sleep, imagine your inner house being rebuilt, not with walls of criticism, but with beams of compassion, windows of forgiveness, doors of gentleness. This is the power of right speech within yourself. It transforms your inner world into a home where you can finally rest, where your soul feels welcome, where healing can unfold naturally. Among the many practices the Buddha offered, there is one so gentle yet so profound that it has been passed down for more than 2,500 years. It is called Metta Bhavana, the meditation on loving kindness. The word metta means unconditional friendliness, boundless goodwill, a love that asks for nothing in return. And while this practice extends outward to all beings, it always begins within yourself. Why begin with yourself? Because you cannot give what you do not have. You cannot pour kindness into the world if your own heart is dry. You cannot radiate love while withholding it from yourself. Metta meditation teaches us that self-love is not selfishness. It is the root from which all other compassion grows. The practice is simple, but its effects are deep. You begin by sitting quietly, closing your eyes, and bringing your attention to your own heart. At first, you may notice resistance. Perhaps the mind says, "I don't deserve this." Perhaps shame or doubt rises. That is normal. You do not fight it. You simply breathe, and into the silence of your heart, you whisper phrases of loving kindness. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be at ease. May I be loved. You repeat these words slowly, gently, not forcing yourself to feel anything. Even if the words feel empty at first, you continue. The practice is not about manufacturing feelings. It is about planting seeds. Over time, those seeds grow roots, then stems, then blossoms, until love begins to flow naturally. Imagine your heart as a garden. Each phrase of metta is like a drop of water nourishing the soil. Perhaps the soil has been dry for years, cracked with neglect. Perhaps it resists at first, but with each drop, it softens. With each whisper of kindness, the garden awakens. Once you have offered metta to yourself, you slowly extend it outward, first to someone you love, a friend, a family member, someone who brings warmth to your heart. You picture them and repeat the phrases, "May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be at ease. May you be loved." Then you extend it further to someone neutral, perhaps a stranger you see often but do not know. Then to someone difficult, someone who has hurt you. This does not mean you excuse their actions. It means you recognize that they too are human, and that their suffering is what caused their harm. Finally, you extend metta to all beings everywhere, humans, animals, seen and unseen. The love becomes boundless, without edge, without condition. But always, it begins with you. There is a story of a monk who practiced metta for years. One day, when asked how it had changed him, he said, "Before, I walked through the world like a clenched fist, always bracing, always protecting, always afraid. Now, I walk like an open hand, still careful, still aware, but open, ready to touch life gently. This is what metta does. It softens the fist of the heart into an open palm. Close your eyes now and try a few breaths of this practice with me. Place your hand over your heart. Feel its steady rhythm. Whisper inwardly, "May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be at ease. May I be loved." Pause. Notice what arises. Perhaps warmth, perhaps resistance, perhaps nothing at all. Whatever it is welcome. Continue. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be at ease. May I be loved. Let the words settle into you like soft rain. Imagine each phrase as a light, filling your chest, spreading through your body, glowing in your hands, your feet, your face. Imagine it radiating outward until the whole room is filled with this gentle light. This is metta, not a feeling you force, but a presence you invite. Over time, it reshapes the heart. The critic grows quieter, the wounds feel lighter, the illusion of not enoughness begins to dissolve. You begin to see yourself and others with softer eyes. The Buddha once said that practicing metta, even for the length of time it takes to snap your fingers, is more powerful than countless hours of rituals without love. Why? Because metta changes the heart, and when the heart changes, the world changes. As you drift into sleep tonight, let these phrases continue in your mind, like a lullaby for the soul. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be at ease. May I be loved. Repeat them as many times as you like, until they blend with your breath, until they guide you into dreams. And as you rest, remember this: love does not need to be earned. Compassion does not need to be deserved. They are your birthright, as natural as breath, as steady as your heartbeat. Metta is simply the practice of remembering what has always been true, that you are worthy of love, exactly as you are. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood practices of the heart. Many believe it means excusing harm, pretending pain never happened, or reconciling with those who have hurt us. But true forgiveness is something far more powerful. Forgiveness is liberation, the releasing of the chains we have been carrying, the unbinding of our own hearts from the weight of resentment and regret. The Buddha once compared anger and resentment to holding a hot coal in your hand with the intention of throwing it at someone else. In the end, it is your own hand that gets burned. In the same way, when we hold on to anger, bitterness, or guilt, it is we who suffer most. The person who harmed us may not even remember, but our bodies remember, our hearts remember. Each thought of revenge or regret is another coal in our hands, burning us slowly from within. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It does not mean what happened was acceptable. It does not mean you must let the person back into your life. Forgiveness means choosing to put the coal down, choosing to free yourself from the endless cycle of pain. It is not about them, it is about you. Think of the regrets you carry, perhaps words you wish you could take back, actions you wish you had done differently. Do you punish yourself daily with them? Do you replay the scenes over and over, wishing you could change them? This is a prison of your own making, and forgiveness is the key that unlocks the door. When you whisper to yourself, "I forgive you," you were doing the best you could at the time. You release the chains. You allow yourself to breathe again. There is a story of two monks traveling together. They came to a river where a woman stood, afraid to cross. One monk carried her across, then set her down gently on the other side. Hours later, the second monk said, "Why did you carry her? We monks are not supposed to touch women." The first monk smiled and replied, "I set her down at the riverbank hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? How many things are you still carrying long after they happened? How many old wounds still live inside you because you have not allowed yourself to set them down?" Forgiveness is the act of setting them down, not for others, but for your own freedom. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. We carry guilt like stones in our pockets, heavy and unrelenting. But guilt does not heal the past. It only poisons the present. True healing begins when you look gently at yourself and say, "Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I caused pain. But I will not condemn myself forever. I choose to learn. I choose to grow. I choose to forgive." Close your eyes now and take a slow, steady breath. Bring to mind someone or something you have struggled to forgive. It could be another person. It could be yourself. Notice what arises in your body, the tightness, the heaviness, the resistance. Place your hand over your heart and whisper softly, "I see the pain. I see the wound. I am ready to release the chains." Then, as you exhale, imagine placing the coal down. Imagine setting the heavy stone aside. Imagine your heart becoming lighter, freer. Even if you cannot forgive completely yet, the intention itself begins the healing. Forgiveness is not always instant. Sometimes it is a process, unfolding slowly, like ice melting in the sun. But each breath of release is a step toward freedom. The Buddha taught that everything is impermanent. This includes pain. This includes resentment. Even the heaviest burdens shift when met with compassion. Forgiveness is a way of aligning yourself with this truth. Instead of clinging to the wound, you let it flow with the river of impermanence. You say, "I will not be chained to the past. I will live in the freedom of the present." Think of a bird trapped in a cage. The door is open, but the bird does not realize it. Forgiveness is the moment you remember the door has always been open, the moment you spread your wings and fly. As you prepare for sleep tonight, allow forgiveness to be your lullaby. Whisper gently, "I forgive, I release, I am free." Let those words settle deep into your body. Feel how the heart softens. Feel how the breath eases. Feel how the weight begins to lift. And as you drift into dreams, trust this: forgiveness is not a gift you give to the past. It is a gift you give to yourself, here and now. It is the key that unlocks the prison of pain. It is the choice to live free, to love again, to breathe deeply, to rest. So often, compassion is misunderstood as saying yes to everything, as giving endlessly without limit, as keeping yourself open no matter the cost. But true compassion, for yourself and for others, requires boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are gentle fences that protect the garden of your heart, allowing love to grow without being trampled. The Buddha taught the middle way, not extremes of indulgence or denial, not all or nothing, but balance. Boundaries are part of that balance. They are acts of compassion because they prevent harm both to yourself and to those around you. Without boundaries, love becomes distorted into obligation, kindness becomes exhaustion, giving becomes resentment. With boundaries, love flows freely, sustainably, and honestly. Think of the sun. Its light nourishes the earth, but it does not shine without limit. Night comes, and the sun rests below the horizon. Imagine if the sun never set, burning endlessly without pause. The earth would wither. Even the sun knows when to shine and when to rest. Your heart is the same. You must know when to give and when to step back. Many people fear setting boundaries because they believe it makes them selfish or that it will disappoint others. But boundaries are not selfish. They are clarity. They tell the world, this is how I can love you without harming myself. And in the long run, they prevent deeper harm than endless self-sacrifice ever could. Imagine a friend who always says yes, even when exhausted, even when overwhelmed. At first, it may seem generous, but slowly resentment builds. Their yes becomes heavy, their smile fades, their presence feels strained. Now imagine a friend who sometimes says no, but whose yes is always genuine, wholehearted, filled with energy and love. Which one do you trust more? Which one do you feel safer with? The answer is clear. Boundaries make love trustworthy. Close your eyes for a moment and think of an area in your life where you feel stretched too thin. Perhaps it is work, perhaps it is family, perhaps it is the demands you place on yourself. Notice the tension in your body as you imagine it. That tension is your heart whispering, a boundary is needed here. Setting a boundary does not always mean walking away. Sometimes it is as simple as saying, I cannot do this right now. Sometimes it is asking for help. Sometimes it is leaving space between yourself and someone who drains your spirit. Sometimes it is choosing rest over another obligation. Each boundary is an act of love, love for yourself and love for the relationship itself. Because relationships built without boundaries eventually break under the weight of unspoken resentment. There is a Zen story of a monk who was asked why he seemed so peaceful. He replied, because I know where I end and where I begin. I do not try to carry what is not mine. Boundaries are this knowing. They remind you that you cannot heal another by sacrificing yourself, that you cannot solve someone else's suffering by abandoning your own well-being. At first, setting boundaries may feel uncomfortable. Old fears may rise. They won't love me if I say no. They will be disappointed. I will be alone. But slowly, as you practice, you realize that the people who truly love you will respect your boundaries. They will appreciate your honesty. They will feel safer knowing your yes is real. And those who do not respect your boundaries were never truly honoring you to begin with. Boundaries also protect your inner practice. If you spend all your energy on the demands of others, you leave no time for awareness, for compassion, for rest. Your well runs dry, as we spoke of before. Boundaries are the way you refill it. They create the space in which your healing can deepen, so that when you do show up for others, you show up with fullness. Think again of the garden of your heart. Without a gentle fence, animals may trample it, weeds may overtake it, careless footsteps may crush the flowers. A fence does not keep life out. It simply guides it, protects it, ensures that what is sacred within can flourish. Boundaries are that fence. They say, this is my sacred space. You may enter, but not destroy. You may approach, but with respect. Take a deep breath now. Place your hand on your chest. Whisper softly, "It is safe to set boundaries. It is kind to set boundaries. My boundaries are acts of compassion." Let the words settle into you. Notice how your body relaxes, how your heart feels a little steadier, a little safer. As you prepare for sleep tonight, imagine yourself standing in the garden of your heart. See the fence around it, sturdy yet welcoming. See the flowers blooming freely inside, nourished because they are protected. Whisper gently, "I will tend to this garden with love. I will protect it with compassion. I will share its beauty, but I will not let it be destroyed." And as you drift into dreams, trust that your boundaries will hold you, like the gentle walls of a home, allowing you to rest deeply, safely, peacefully. Loneliness is a feeling almost every heart knows. It comes in quiet evenings when the house is still, in crowded rooms where no one truly sees you, in the restless hours of night when you lie awake, wondering if you matter, wondering if anyone really understands. Loneliness can feel like a shadow that follows you everywhere, sometimes faint, sometimes overwhelming, but always near. And yet, what if loneliness is not the enemy we believe it to be? What if loneliness is not a sign of brokenness, but an invitation? What if, instead of running from it, we could learn to sit with it, to listen, to discover what it has been trying to show us all along? The Buddha taught that suffering is not just what hurts us, it is also what awakens us. Loneliness, when met with compassion, can become light. It can become the very doorway that leads us home to ourselves. Think of a candle placed in a dark room. At first, the darkness feels overwhelming, endless. But as soon as the candle is lit, even a single flame, the room transforms. The darkness has not vanished, but it is no longer frightening. The light changes everything. In the same way, when you bring awareness and kindness to your loneliness, it begins to glow with a soft light. It no longer feels like emptiness, it begins to feel like spaciousness. So many of us spend our lives trying to avoid loneliness. We fill our days with noise, our hands with work, our minds with distractions. We scroll through endless images, watch endless stories, seeking connection yet feeling emptier with each passing hour. Why? Because these things may distract us, but they do not meet the heart. Loneliness cannot be healed by more noise. It can only be healed by presence. Presence means sitting quietly with yourself and whispering, "I am here. I will not leave you." It means allowing the ache in your chest to be felt, not as proof of your unworthiness, but as proof of your longing. Loneliness is not a flaw. It is the longing for connection, the yearning of the heart to remember its own wholeness. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel into the quiet around you. Notice any spaces of emptiness, any echoes of loneliness. Instead of pushing them away, breathe into them. Imagine them not as shadows, but as rooms waiting to be filled with light. Each breath you take is like a candle being lit. Slowly, the emptiness begins to glow. There is a story of a monk who spent many years alone in a cave, meditating. People asked him, "Weren't you lonely?" He smiled and said, "At first, yes, but in my loneliness, I discovered the company of my own heart. I discovered that I was never truly alone. This is the gift of loneliness. It reveals the friend you have been forgetting, yourself. When you learn to sit in solitude and find peace there, You are never truly lonely again. You may be alone, but alone becomes all one whole, complete, enough. The transformation of loneliness into light does not happen by escaping it, but by leaning gently into it, by listening to what it asks. Sometimes it asks for rest. Sometimes it asks for creativity, for stillness, for honesty. Sometimes it simply asks for your presence. And when you answer, when you stay instead of running, loneliness softens. It becomes a teacher, guiding you back to the truth, that you are already connected, already part of this vast web of life. Every breath you take is shared with trees, with oceans, with the sky. Every heartbeat echoes the rhythm of existence itself. You are not separate. You are part of it all. So as you prepare for sleep tonight, do not fear the quiet. Do not fear the stillness. Instead, let it become your sanctuary. Light the candle of your breath. Whisper softly, I am here. I am not alone. I am connected to all that is. And as you drift into dreams, let loneliness transform into light, guiding you back to yourself, back to peace, back to the radiant truth that even in silence, even in solitude, you are whole. Solitude is often confused with loneliness. One feels like emptiness, the other like fullness. One drains, the other restores. The difference is not in the absence of people, but in the quality of presence. When loneliness is met with fear, it becomes a prison. But when solitude is embraced with love, it becomes a sacred temple. The Buddha himself often sought solitude. He left behind the noise of the palace, the comforts of wealth, the distractions of the world, and sat alone beneath a tree. It was not in the midst of crowds, but in the stillness of solitude that he found awakening. Solitude gave him space to listen, to see clearly, to touch the truth within. You, too, carry this possibility, to treat your solitude not as something to escape, but as something to enter, to step into the quiet of your own company, as if stepping into a temple, sacred and alive. Imagine yourself walking barefoot into such a temple. The air is cool, the floor beneath your feet solid and grounding. Around you, silence hums softly, like a gentle song. In this space, there is nothing to prove, nothing to perform, nothing to hide, only the presence of your own being, steady and calm. This temple is always with you, waiting for you to enter each time you choose stillness. So often we fear being alone because we equate it with emptiness. We look for company, for noise, for distraction, believing that stillness means lack. But solitude is not lack. Solitude is spaciousness. It is the wide open sky that allows the clouds of your mind to drift and dissolve. It is the quiet pond that reflects your true self without distortion. It is the gentle room where your heart can finally speak, where your soul can finally rest. There is a story of a teacher who once told his students, "If you are never at ease when you are alone, you have not yet made peace with yourself." The students asked, "But Master, how do we learn to enjoy our own company?" And he replied, "By treating solitude as sacred, by bowing to the silence instead of fearing it." When you begin to see solitude as a sacred temple, you stop running from it. You stop filling it with distractions. You enter with reverence. You sit down quietly, breathe, and listen. At first, the mind may chatter, the heart may ache, the body may fidget. But if you stay, if you soften, something shifts. The noise fades, the ache loosens, The fidgeting settles. What remains is present, simple, alive, enough. Close your eyes now and imagine sitting in your temple of solitude. The walls are made of silence, the roof is the open sky, the altar is your own heart. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to fix, nothing you need to earn. Simply breathe, slowly and gently. With each breath, the temple fills with light. With each exhale, it grows more spacious. Feel how safe it is here. Feel how whole you are here. In solitude, you remember that you are not just a role, parent, partner, worker, friend. You are more than the masks you wear, more than the duties you perform. In solitude, you meet yourself as you are, raw, unadorned, real. And in that meeting, you discover that you are enough. This sacred solitude is not about withdrawing from the world forever. It is about touching stillness long enough to carry it back with you into daily life. When you know the temple within, you can return to it any time amidst chaos, amidst noise, amidst company. You carry the silence like a lamp inside you, steadying you, guiding you, lighting the way. The poet Rumi once wrote, "There is a voice that doesn't use words. Listen, solitude is where that voice becomes clear. It is not the voice of the critic, not the voice of regret, not the voice of illusion. It is the voice of your own heart, whispering softly, guiding you home." So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, treat this moment of solitude as sacred. Let your bed become the temple, your breath the prayer, your body the altar. Whisper gently, "I am safe in my solitude. I am whole in my solitude. In my solitude, I meet myself, and I am enough." And as you drift into dreams, know that you are never truly alone. You are always in the company of your own heart. You are always in the presence of the temple within. And in that sacred solitude, you can finally rest. Silence has many faces. To some, it feels heavy, even frightening, as though the absence of sound exposes an emptiness they would rather not face. To others, silence is a balm, a gentle embrace that soothes the weary mind and softens the restless heart. The difference lies not in silence itself, but in how we meet it. Silence can wound when filled with loneliness and fear, but it can also heal when embraced with presence and compassion. Think of how often we try to avoid silence. We fill our days with voices, with music, with screens, with endless noise. We walk with headphones, fall asleep to television, scroll through conversations not because we need them, but because we fear the quiet that waits when they end. Yet when we constantly run from silence, we also run from ourselves. The Buddha often sought silence, not as an escape but as a sanctuary. He taught that when the noise of the mind settles, the truth of the heart is revealed. Silence is not empty, it is full of awareness, full of presence, full of the life that continues to move gently beneath the surface of sound. Imagine standing by a lake at dawn. The air is still, the water is calm. At first, the stillness may feel strange, even unsettling. But as you stand there longer, you begin to notice subtle sounds. The quiet ripple of fish beneath the surface, the distant song of birds, the rhythm of your own breath. What seemed empty reveals itself as alive. This is what happens when you stop resisting silence. It begins to show you its hidden richness. Many of us associate silence with hurt. Perhaps you remember moments when someone's silence felt like rejection, when a lack of words deepened your pain more than harshness ever could. But healing silence is different. It is not the silence of absence, but the silence of presence. It is not cold or punishing. It is spacious, tender, allowing you to rest within it. Close your eyes now and listen, not just with your ears, but with your whole being. Notice the silence around you. Notice how it holds you gently. Notice how it allows your breath to rise and fall, how it gives space for your heart to beat, how it offers rest without demand. This silence does not judge. It does not rush. It simply holds you, the way the night sky holds the stars. There is a Zen story of a student who asked his master, "What is the highest teaching?" The master simply sat in silence. At first, the student was confused, even frustrated. But slowly, he began to realize the silence itself was the teaching. It was an invitation to go beyond words, beyond concepts, to experience directly the vastness of being. In healing silence, the wounds of the heart begin to breathe. The critic grows quiet. The weight of regret softens. The illusion of fades. You discover that you are not your thoughts, not your stories, not your noise. You are the awareness that holds them all, steady and unshaken. Perhaps tonight, as you lie in bed, silence feels uncomfortable at first. The mind chatters, replaying the day, anticipating tomorrow. Do not fight it. Do not try to silence the mind by force. Instead, rest within the silence beneath the noise. Breathe slowly. With each exhale, imagine your thoughts settling like dust in a still room. With each inhale, imagine yourself resting deeper into the quiet. Slowly, the silence transforms. It no longer feels like emptiness. It begins to feel like spaciousness, a vast, gentle space where you can finally lay down your burdens. A sanctuary where nothing is demanded of you, where you are free simply to be. Think of silence as a friend. At first, you may feel awkward together, but as you spend more time in its company, trust builds. You realize silence is not here to harm you. It is here to support you, to listen, to hold you without judgment. In its presence, you begin to remember who you are beneath all the noise. So, as you drift into sleep tonight, do not fear the quiet. Welcome it as a healer, as a companion, as a temple of rest. Whisper softly to yourself, "I am safe in the silence. I am held by the silence. In silence, I heal." And let that silence cradle you, like gentle arms, carrying you into dreams filled not with noise, but with peace. In the ancient stories of the Buddha, there is a figure who appears again and again, Mara, the tempter, the embodiment of fear, doubt, and illusion. On the night of his awakening, as the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, Mara came to him with armies of demons, with storms of desire, with whispers of doubt. Who are you to seek liberation? Who are you to believe you can awaken? Mara's goal was not to kill the Buddha's body, but to shake his mind, to make him abandon himself. The Buddha did not fight Mara with anger. He did not run away in fear. He simply touched the earth and said, "I see you, Mara." And in that simple recognition, Mara's power dissolved. The demons vanished. The whispers grew quiet. The storm passed. Each of us has our own Mara. We may not see armies of demons, but we hear the same voices of doubt. You are not enough. You will fail. You are alone. Why even try? These voices are not proof of our weakness. They are part of being human. Even the Buddha had to face them. The question is not whether Mara will appear. The question is how we will respond when he does. Too often, we mistake the voices of doubt for truth. We believe them. We let them guide our choices, limit our dreams, define our worth. But what if, instead of believing them, we met them the way the Buddha did? What if we simply said, "I see you, Mara. You are here, but you are not me." Close your eyes for a moment now and think of a doubt that often visits you. Perhaps it whispers that you are not capable, not worthy, not lovable. Hear its voice clearly. Then, instead of pushing it away, bow gently to it. Whisper inwardly, "I see you, Mara." Notice what happens. The doubt may not disappear instantly, but it begins to lose its sharpness. It becomes just a voice, not the truth of who you are. Mara thrives in silence that is filled with fear. But when silence is filled with awareness, his power fades. The act of recognition, gentle, steady, without judgment, is what weakens him. The Buddha taught that thoughts, doubts, fears are like visitors in a house. You do not need to slam the door. You do not need to fight them. You only need to greet them politely, without inviting them to stay forever. Imagine your mind as a sky, and Mara's doubts as passing storms. They may be loud, they may be frightening, but storms do not last. The sky always remains. You are that sky. Mara is only weather. There is a practice some monks use when doubts arise. They imagine Mara sitting across from them, smiling slyly, whispering his usual lines of fear, and instead of resisting, they pour Mara a cup of tea. They say, "I see you, old friend. Sit with me." In this way, the fear loses its grip. Doubt is no longer an enemy, but a visitor, acknowledged, disarmed, and eventually gone. Perhaps tonight, as you lie in bed, doubts will come. They may whisper of mistakes, of failures, of loneliness. Instead of wrestling with them, try this. Breathe deeply, place your hand over your heart, and whisper softly, "I see you, Mara, but I will not abandon myself." Let the words sink into your body. Let them create space between you and the doubt. You are not the voice. You are the one who hears it. The more you practice this, the freer you become. Doubt may still arise, but it no longer controls you. Fear may still appear, but it no longer defines you. Loneliness may still visit, but it no longer feels like emptiness. It feels like spaciousness, alive with presence. The Buddha did not destroy Mara. He simply recognized him, and in that recognition, he found freedom. You, too, can find this freedom, not by eliminating doubt, but by meeting it with awareness, with gentleness, with the steady reminder that you are larger than any voice that tries to diminish you. So as you drift into sleep tonight, imagine Mara's whispers fading into the background, like distant echoes that no longer reach your heart. Imagine yourself touching the earth, steady, grounded, whispering, "I see you, I am here, I am free." And with that, rest. Rest in the spaciousness beyond doubt. Rest in the awareness that holds everything. Rest in the truth that you are not the storm, not the whisper, not Mara. You are the vastness in which all of it comes and goes. There are moments when the heart feels hollow, when silence echoes like an empty cave, when being alone feels unbearable. In these moments, we call it emptiness. It feels as if something is missing, as if a vital piece of life has slipped away. And yet, the Buddha taught that what we often call emptiness is not a void to be feared, but a doorway to something vast, something liberating. When we see it clearly, emptiness transforms into spaciousness. Emptiness says, I am lacking, I am incomplete, I am alone. Spaciousness whispers, I am open, I am free, I am connected to everything. The difference is not in what is happening around you, but in how you meet the moment within you. Imagine standing in a dark room with no windows. At first it feels suffocating. You reach for distractions, for anything to fill the void. But then, slowly, a small crack appears in the wall. Light streams in. The room has not changed much. It is still quiet, still bare, but suddenly it feels different. It no longer feels like a prison. It feels like space. The same room, but a different way of seeing. This is the shift from emptiness to spaciousness. Loneliness, when resisted, feels like emptiness. You tell yourself, no one understands me. I am cut off. I am incomplete. But when you breathe into it, when you soften, you begin to feel the vastness hidden beneath. You realize that the quiet around you is not empty, it is spacious. It is the same space that holds the stars, the same silence from which all music arises, the same openness in which every breath appears and dissolves. You are not cut off from life. You are resting in its infinite embrace. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice the space around your body. Notice how the air touches your skin, how your breath moves in and out, how each sound arises and then dissolves into silence. This space is not nothing. It is alive. It holds you gently. It connects you to all things. Without space, there would be no room for anything to exist, not the stars in the sky, not the breath in your lungs, not the beating of your heart. When you begin to see emptiness in this way, it no longer frightens you. It becomes a refuge. Spaciousness gives you room to breathe, room to rest, room to be. You no longer feel trapped in the tight cage of not enough. You begin to feel held by the vastness of life itself. There is a Zen saying, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. What this means is that emptiness is not nothingness, it is potential. It is the fertile soil from which everything arises. Without emptiness, nothing new could be born. Without silence, there could be no song. Without space, there could be no movement. What feels like absence is actually the very condition that makes presence possible. Think of the sky again. When filled with clouds, it feels heavy, closed in. But when the clouds part, you see the vast blue stretching endlessly. That vastness was always there. The clouds only covered it. In the same way, when loneliness clouds your heart, it feels like emptiness. But when awareness clears the sky, you remember the spaciousness that has been with you all along. Many people fear solitude because they believe it means being cut off. But solitude, when embraced, reveals spaciousness. It reveals that you are never truly alone. You are connected to every breath of wind, every drop of water, every ray of light. You are part of the whole, inseparable from it. Spaciousness dissolves the illusion of separation. As you lie here tonight, notice any places inside you that feel empty. Do not rush to fill them. Do not cover them with noise. Instead, breathe into them. Imagine those places expanding, softening, opening. With each inhale, feel light filling the emptiness. With each exhale, feel it transform into spaciousness, no longer a void, but a vast, gentle sky. Whisper softly to yourself, "This emptiness is not a wound. It is space. It is openness. It is freedom." Feel the shift as you say these words. Notice how your body relaxes, how your heart softens, how your mind feels less crowded. Spaciousness is not something you must create. It is already here, waiting to be recognized. The Buddha once said that freedom is not found in clinging but in letting go. Spaciousness is the experience of letting go of the need to control, of the need to fill, of the fear of being alone. In spaciousness, you find peace, not because you have everything, but because you realize you are part of everything. So, as you drift into sleep tonight, let emptiness become spaciousness. Let the silence around you become a vast, open field. Let the stillness of your room become a temple of infinite peace. Whisper once more, "I am open, I am whole, I am free." And as you rest in this spaciousness, may your dreams carry you not into loneliness, but into the radiant light of connection, of freedom, of belonging to all that is. There comes a moment on the path of healing when recognition turns into devotion, when compassion deepens into love, and when love blossoms into a way of living. This moment is when you no longer see yourself as someone to be fixed, or tolerated, or merely endured. Instead, you begin to see yourself as beloved, not in a fleeting surface way, but in the deepest sense as the one you have been waiting for all along. We spend so much of life seeking love outside of ourselves. We long for the partner who will finally understand us, the family who will finally see us, the community who will finally embrace us. And when love arrives, it is beautiful. But when it fades, or changes, or leaves, we are left again with the question, who am I when no one else is here? The Buddha reminded us that all external conditions are impermanent. People change, circumstances shift. Even the deepest relationships ebb and flow with time. If we anchor our worth only in others, we will always feel unsteady. But when we learn to live as our own beloved, our anchor moves within. Love becomes not a visitor who may come and go, but the very ground beneath our feet. To live as your own beloved means to treat yourself with the devotion you have always dreamed of receiving. It means waking each morning not with criticism, but with gentleness. Good morning, my dear. I am here for you. It means caring for your body, not out of duty, but out of tenderness, feeding it, resting it, cherishing it. It means meeting your emotions, not as enemies, but as children of your own heart, each worthy of patience and care. Imagine for a moment how you would treat someone you love deeply, a partner, a child, a friend. You would listen to them with presence. You would encourage them when they doubted themselves. You would forgive them when they faltered. You would celebrate their joys, comfort their sorrows, and stand beside them through all seasons. To live as your own beloved means to offer yourself that same devotion, day after day, without conditions. Perhaps this feels strange. Perhaps a voice rises inside, saying, "But I don't deserve that. I haven't earned it." This is Mara's whisper again, the voice of doubt, the illusion of not enoughness. But remember, love is not something you earn. It is your birthright. The simple fact that you breathe, that you exist, that your heart beats within you, that is enough reason to be loved. Living as your own beloved is not about ignoring others. In fact, it deepens your connections. When you stop demanding that others fill the emptiness inside you, you meet them with openness instead of need. Love flows freely because it is no longer about grasping, but about sharing. You become less afraid of loss, less desperate for approval, less shaken by change. Because you know whatever happens, you will not abandon yourself. Close your eyes for a moment now. Place your hand over your heart. Whisper softly, I am my own beloved. I will love myself with devotion. I will not leave myself again. Feel the words as more than sentences. Feel them as vows, as sacred promises you make to yourself. Let them sink into your bones, into your breath, into the rhythm of your heart. There is a story of a seeker who asked a master, "How do I find the love I have been searching for all my life?" The master smiled and said, "Turn inward. The beloved you seek has been with you since the beginning. Sit with them, listen, love them, and you will see they have been waiting patiently all along." Tonight, as you rest, imagine living not as someone in need of rescue, but as someone already loved by yourself. Imagine rising tomorrow with tenderness in your voice, kindness in your thoughts, gentleness in your actions. Imagine walking through the world with the quiet confidence of one who knows they are cherished, not because of what they achieve, but simply because they are alive. This is what it means to live as your own beloved. It is not a fleeting practice. It is a way of being, a sacred relationship you cultivate for the rest of your life. And once you learn to love yourself in this way, the world itself begins to change, because everywhere you go, you carry the steady light of a heart that has come home. So as you drift into dreams tonight, whisper once more, I am my own beloved. I am whole. I am enough. I am love itself. And let these words wrap around you like a warm blanket, carrying you gently into the spacious rest you deserve. There is a teaching in Zen Buddhism, both simple and profound, often expressed in the question, what was your original face before you were born? At first, it sounds like a riddle, an impossible puzzle. But behind it lies a deep truth, the reminder that beneath all your experiences, beneath every role you have played, beneath every scar and every story, there is an untouched self. A self that existed before the world told you who you should be. A self that has never been broken, never been stained, never been less than whole. This original face is not about physical appearance. It is about your essence. When you were a child, before fear and doubt were learned, before criticism was internalized, before comparison shaped your view of yourself, you lived from this essence. You laughed freely. You cried openly. You loved without hesitation. You were not yet wearing masks. You were not yet protecting yourself with armor. You were pure presence, pure being. That is your original face. Life, however, layers over this purity. You are told who you must be to belong, how you must act to be loved, what you must achieve to be valued. Slowly, you begin to wear masks: student, worker, parent, friend, success, failure. You begin to identify with your wounds, your regrets, your mistakes. You forget the face you carried before all this, and yet it has never disappeared. It waits beneath the layers, like the sky behind clouds, like the sun behind the storm. The practice of living as your own beloved means learning to see this original face again, to remember that no matter what has happened, there is a part of you that remains untouched. Your worth is not defined by scars, by opinions, by achievements, or by failures. It is defined by the simple, luminous truth of your existence. Imagine standing before a mirror, not the ordinary mirror that shows wrinkles, scars, and imperfections, but a mirror of the soul. In this mirror, you do not see the masks you wear. You do not see the critic, or the regret, or the illusion of. You see the child who first opened their eyes to the world. You see the light that has carried you through every season. You see the original face, the one that was never broken, never lost, never unworthy. Close your eyes for a moment now. Picture yourself gently peeling away the layers, the roles, the expectations, the wounds. One by one, you set them aside. What remains? A face not marked by judgment, but radiant with simplicity. A being not defined by what they do, but by who they are. This is your untouched self, your original face. There is a story of a monk who, after many years of searching, sat quietly one evening and suddenly saw himself as he truly was. He laughed, tears streaming down his face, and said, "All this time I was looking for the treasure, and it was sitting in my own pocket. Your original face is this treasure. It has been with you all along." Perhaps tonight, as you rest, you feel the weight of mistakes, of regrets, of the voices that have told you you're not enough. Let them drift away, like garments you no longer need to wear. Beneath them, your true self breathes easily, shining without effort. Whisper softly to yourself, "I remember my original face. I am whole. I am free." The Buddha taught that awakening is not about becoming something new, but about remembering who you truly are. To see your original face is to realize that at the deepest level, you have always been enough. Nothing can take that away. Not pain, not failure, not the passing of time. The sky does not lose its vastness when covered by clouds, and you do not lose your worth when covered by suffering. Living as your own beloved begins here, with the recognition of your original face. When you look at yourself through this lens, self-love is no longer an effort. It becomes natural, inevitable. Because how could you not love what has always been pure, luminous, and whole? So as you drift into sleep tonight, imagine your original face shining softly, like a light beneath the surface of your being. Let it glow through the cracks of your wounds, through the softness of your breath, through the stillness of your heart. Whisper once more, "I remember who I am. I remember my original face. I am love itself," and rest in that truth, steady and eternal. So often, when people hear the words, "love yourself," they imagine vanity. They imagine someone staring endlessly into the mirror, boasting of their beauty, placing themselves above others. But this is not what true self-love means. True self-love is not vanity, it is survival. It is the ground you walk on, the air you breathe, the very foundation that allows you to live with strength, with resilience, with wholeness. Without self-love, we become fragile in the face of life's storms. Every criticism cuts deeply, Every rejection feels fatal. Every failure becomes unbearable. We cling to others for validation. We overwork to prove our worth. We silence ourselves to be accepted. Slowly, we abandon our own hearts. And when the storms come, as they always do, we find ourselves without shelter. But with self-love, everything changes. Self-love builds the inner shelter, the steady flame, the safe home within. When criticism comes, it may sting, but it does not shatter you. When rejection arises, it may hurt, but it does not define you. When failure happens, it may slow you, but it does not end you. Because you know, even in the hardest moments, you will not abandon yourself. The Buddha once said, "You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." These words are not about indulgence, they are about survival. To live without loving yourself is to live without oxygen, without roots, without ground. To love yourself is to breathe, to root, to stand steady. Think of a tree in the middle of a storm. If its roots are shallow, it will topple when the winds rise. But if its roots are deep, it can bend, it can sway, it can endure. Self-love is those roots. Without them, life will topple you. With them, you may bend, but you will not break. Many confuse arrogance with self-love. Arrogance says, "I am better than others." Self-love says, "I am equal to others. I am worthy just as they are." Arrogance separates. Self-love connects. Arrogance is fragile, always needing to prove itself. Self-love is steady, needing no proof at all. Close your eyes for a moment now and ask yourself, how do I respond to life's storms? Do I crumble at the first sign of rejection? Do I silence myself to avoid conflict? Do I carry regret as if it were my identity? These are signs of shallow roots, of survival without nourishment. But tonight, you can begin again. Tonight, you can whisper softly to yourself, "I will root myself in love. I will nourish myself with kindness. I will survive because I will not abandon me. There is a story of a woman who always gave to others, but never to herself. One day, she collapsed from exhaustion. As she lay in bed, unable to move, she realized something. All her love for others meant little if she could not sustain her own life. From that day on, she began to care for herself, not out of selfishness, but out of survival. She discovered that when she was well, her love for others became even deeper, more genuine, more lasting. This is the truth. Loving yourself is not optional. It is not a luxury. It is not something to do when you have extra time. It is the foundation of everything else. Without it, you cannot truly love others. Without it, you cannot withstand life's storms. Without it, you cannot fully live. Imagine yourself now as both the tree and the gardener. Your body, your mind, your spirit, they are the tree. And your attention, your kindness, your compassion, they are the gardener. Each time you speak kindly to yourself, each time you rest when you need it, each time you forgive yourself, you are watering the roots. You are ensuring that when the winds rise, you will stand strong. Perhaps you still doubt. Perhaps a voice inside whispers, "I don't deserve it." But that voice is not truth. It is Mara again, the voice of illusion, of fear. The truth is simpler, quieter, and deeper. You deserve love because you are alive. You deserve love because you exist. Survival itself depends on it. So as you prepare to rest tonight, let self-love be your shelter. Imagine yourself as a tree with roots sinking deep into the earth, steady and grounded. Feel the storms of doubt, of fear, of loneliness swirling around you. Then feel your roots, the love you offer yourself, holding you, keeping you safe. Whisper softly, I will survive because I will not abandon myself. I will thrive because I will love myself. And as you drift into dreams, let this truth carry you. Self-love is not vanity. Self-love is survival. It is the root, the breath, the ground, the shelter. It is what allows you to bend without breaking, to fall and rise again, to live with strength, grace, and peace. There is a quiet strength that arises when you learn to love yourself. It is not loud, it does not shout, it does not need to announce itself to the world. It moves gently, steadily, like a river flowing toward the sea. This strength is called confidence, but confidence is often misunderstood. Many confuse it with arrogance, with the need to stand above others, to prove worth by comparison. True confidence is not arrogance. True confidence is the natural expression of a heart that knows its own worth. Arrogance says, I am better than you. Confidence whispers, I am enough. Arrogance separates, building walls of superiority. Confidence connects, building bridges of respect. Arrogance needs to be recognized. Confidence is content even when unnoticed. When you walk with arrogance, your steps are heavy, as if you must prove your importance with each footfall. But when you walk with confidence, your steps are light, grounded in the simple truth that you belong here as much as anyone else. The Buddha once reminded his followers that all beings, kings and beggars, rich and poor, young and old, share the same essence. No one is higher, no one is lower. To know this deeply is to walk with confidence. To forget this is to stumble into arrogance. Think for a moment about a time when you felt truly at peace with yourself. Maybe you were alone in nature, watching the sun rise, feeling the breeze on your skin. In that moment, did you feel the need to compare yourself with anyone? Did you feel the need to boast or to shrink? No, you simply felt alive, belonging, enough. That is the essence of true confidence. Walking with confidence does not mean you never doubt. It does not mean you never falter. It means that even when doubt arises, you remember your ground. Even when you falter, you return to your center. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to keep walking, step by gentle step, despite fear. Close your eyes now and imagine yourself walking along a quiet path. The earth is solid beneath your feet. With each step you feel grounded, steady. You do not rush. You do not stumble. You move with ease, with presence, with confidence. There is no need to prove anything. Each step is enough. Each breath is enough. You are enough. Arrogance, on the other hand, is fragile. It depends on others noticing, approving, applauding. Without external validation, arrogance crumbles. But confidence is steady because it does not depend on anything outside. It is rooted in the love you offer yourself, in the recognition of your original face, in the shelter of your own heart. There is a story of a young monk who asked his teacher, "Master, how can I walk through the world with dignity?" The teacher replied, "Walk as if the earth itself is glad to hold you." This is confidence. It is not about puffing yourself up. It is about remembering that you belong to the earth, that you are carried by life itself. When you walk with this kind of confidence, people around you feel it. They feel your steadiness. They feel your openness. They feel safe in your presence because they know you are not trying to prove yourself at their expense. You are simply being. Perhaps tonight, as you rest, you recall moments when you confused arrogance with confidence, moments when you tried too hard to be seen or shrank too much to be invisible. Let those memories soften. Whisper gently to yourself, I no longer need to prove. I no longer need to hide. I will walk with confidence, not arrogance. Confidence is humble. Confidence is kind. Confidence is quiet. And yet, it is powerful. It allows you to stand tall without towering over others, to speak with clarity without silencing anyone, to live fully without needing to diminish or outshine anyone else. So as you drift into sleep tonight, imagine yourself walking again along that quiet path, each step steady, each breath easy, the earth supporting you, the sky embracing you, life itself carrying you forward. Whisper once more, I am enough. I walk with confidence, not arrogance. And rest in the truth that tomorrow and every day after, you can carry this quiet strength with you into your work, your relationships, your life. A strength that does not separate, but connects. A strength that does not boast, but simply shines. A strength that comes from knowing that you, as you are already whole. When you begin to live as your own beloved, something remarkable happens. The way you relate to the world changes. Relationships that once felt heavy, complicated, or full of need begin to soften, to flow more freely. This is because the love you offer yourself naturally extends outward. Inner love becomes the foundation upon which outer love is built. So often, when we lack self-love, we turn relationships into lifeboats. We cling to others, desperate for them to carry us, to validate us, to prove that we are worthy. This creates strain. It places a weight on others that no one can bear. And when they falter, as all humans do, we feel abandoned, betrayed, unworthy again. But when you love yourself, you stop asking others to complete you. You no longer approach relationships as empty, seeking fullness. Instead, you come as fullness, meeting fullness. Love becomes not a transaction, but a gift, not a grasping, but a sharing. You give not because you are desperate to be loved back, but because love is already overflowing from within you. Think of a cup. If it is empty, you hold it out to others, begging to be filled. But if it is already full, you can pour freely without fear of running dry. Self-love is that fullness. When your own cup overflows, your relationships are transformed. The Buddha taught that true love is made of 4 elements: loving, kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Loving kindness is the wish for another's happiness. Compassion is the wish to relieve their suffering. Joy is the ability to celebrate their happiness without envy. Equanimity is the spaciousness to love without clinging, without fear of losing. When you practice self-love, these 4 elements naturally blossom within you, and your outer relationships reflect them. For example, loving kindness. When you are kind to yourself, it is easier to be kind to others. Compassion. When you forgive yourself, it is easier to forgive others. Joy. When you celebrate your own small victories, it becomes natural to celebrate the victories of others. Equanimity. When you know your worth, you do not cling to others out of fear. They are free to come and go, and your love remains steady. Imagine for a moment how your relationships would feel if you entered them already whole. No desperate need to be seen, no constant fear of abandonment, no endless measuring of whether you are enough. Instead, you simply meet others as they are, offering love freely, receiving it with gratitude, but never depending on it for survival. Such relationships are lighter, freer, more joyful. They allow both people to grow, to breathe, to be. Close your eyes now and bring to mind someone you love. Notice how your heart responds. If there is tension, fear of losing them, fear of not being enough for them, breathe into that space. Whisper softly, "I am enough. I am my own beloved. From this fullness, I love you freely." Feel how the love shifts from clinging to spaciousness, from need to gift. There is a story of a woman who spent her life searching for the perfect partner, believing they would finally make her whole. Each time a relationship failed, she felt shattered, as though she had lost a piece of herself. One day, weary from the cycle, she began the practice of loving herself. At first, it was difficult, even painful, but slowly, she began to feel whole on her own. Years later, when she did meet someone kind and loving, she realized something. She no longer needed them to complete her. She was already complete. Their love became a blessing, not a lifeline. This is how inner love transforms outer love. It removes the desperation, the fear, the grasping. It makes room for genuine connection, two hearts walking side by side, not leaning on each other to stand, but supporting each other in freedom. The transformation is not only in romantic relationships, it extends to friendships, to family, to strangers. When you walk with inner love, people feel it. They feel safe in your presence because they sense you are not trying to take anything from them. You radiate steadiness, and steadiness is magnetic. Even conflicts change. Instead of reacting from insecurity, you respond from compassion. Instead of needing to win, you seek to understand. Instead of holding grudges, you release them more easily, because you are no longer carrying the burden of self-hatred. So, as you prepare for rest tonight, let this truth settle in your heart. The greatest gift you can give to any relationship is your own wholeness. When you love yourself, you become a source of love, not a seeker of it. You become a steady flame, warming others without burning out. Whisper softly, "I am my own beloved. My love overflows. My relationships are transformed by the fullness of my heart." And as you drift into dreams, imagine yourself surrounded by relationships of light connections, free of fear, full of compassion, radiant with joy. Imagine walking through life tomorrow with this inner love steady within you, shining outward into every encounter, every word, every touch. Because in the end, love is not something you wait to receive, it is something you become. And when you become love, the whole world changes. As we come to the close of this journey together, take a moment to notice the quiet within you now. Notice the way your breath feels softer, the way your heart feels lighter, the way your mind feels calmer than when we first began. You have walked through reflections of self-love, through the wounds of the heart, through the vast sky of your being. You have touched the silence, sat with doubt, embraced solitude, and remembered your original face. This was not just a story, it was a journey inward, a journey into the truth that you are already whole, already worthy, already beloved. Perhaps tonight you felt moments of recognition, like meeting an old friend. Perhaps you felt resistance, like walking through a doorway you were not sure you could cross. Either way, you showed up. And that, dear one, is the greatest act of love you could ever offer yourself. Remember this: healing is not a destination, it is a way of walking. Self-love is not a task to be completed. It is a relationship, one that deepens each day as you return again and again with compassion. You will forget, you will falter. But each time you remember, each time you choose kindness over judgment, each time you choose to stay with yourself instead of abandoning yourself, you strengthen the roots of love within you. And when those roots are strong, everything else in life begins to change. Relationships soften, loneliness transforms, doubt loses its power. The storms of life may still come, but you stand more steady, more rooted, more free. This is the gift of living as your own beloved. I want to thank you truly for walking this path with me tonight, for opening your heart to words of compassion, for allowing yourself to pause, to breathe, to reflect. In a world that moves so fast, full of noise and demands, it is no small thing to choose stillness, to choose presence, to choose love. You have given yourself that gift tonight, and I honor you for it. If these words have touched you, if they have reminded you of your worth, if they have helped you rest more easily, I invite you to stay connected. Please take a moment to subscribe to this channel so that we can continue to walk together through more journeys of healing, peace, and love. Each video is another candle, another moment of light, another reminder that you are not alone on this path. By subscribing, you help keep this circle of compassion alive, not just for yourself, but for countless others who are also seeking peace. Before we close, I want to leave you with a blessing. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. May your heart rest in love. May tomorrow greet you with gentleness. May your burdens grow lighter with each step. May the people you meet feel your compassion, not because you try, but because it overflows naturally from within you. And tonight, as you close your eyes, may you feel wrapped in a blanket of peace. May every breath draw you deeper into rest. May every beat of your heart remind you that you are alive, that you belong, that you are deeply loved. The world needs your light, but before you can shine it outward, you must allow it to shine inward. Trust that even in your quietest moments, you are enough. Trust that even in silence, you are connected to everything. Trust that love is not something you must chase, it is something you already are. So let go now. Release the weight of the day. Release the voices of doubt. Release the regrets you have carried too long. Breathe gently, rest deeply, sleep peacefully. And as you drift into dreams, know this: you are whole, you are worthy, you are beloved, always. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for allowing these words into your heart. I send you blessings of health, of peace, of joy, and of love. Until we meet again, may your nights be restful, your days be bright, and your life be filled with kindness. Good night, dear one. Sleep well. May everything good find its way to you.